You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. All right, folks, what is happening? Happy Monday, everybody out there. Hope you're having a great start of your week. We got a lot going on in this world. We got a great guest for you today. I want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. Make sure you like, subscribe. You want to become a member and support the channel. We really appreciate that. There's a link down in the description below. I'll just go ahead and preface it. We got Dana, aka RottingJewels, on multiple different social media platforms. Her links are down in the description below. Please go support her. Make sure you follow her as well. I want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. I want to say hi to Ben. We got Rena Bean 62416, Shaz, Steven Vacanti. We got Mama Owl Bear. We got Khan. I want to say hi to all the chats out there. Thank you guys for everything you do. All the chats, all the mods out there. I want to say I appreciate everything that you guys do for this channel, and I couldn't do it without you. Disney Up, Boiler Up. Let's see. We got Kayla McDonald, Stargazer 990, S Becky over on Rumble, Cloudy PDX. Folks, if for some reason any of our chat, if you're on YouTube and our stream ever goes down, we are always simulcasting unless something weird is happening over on Rumble and X. So you can go over there. Also Facebook. Facebook has us so censored it's not funny. So I don't really put a lot of time and effort to that. But if something ever happens, you guys can go to one of those and we should be able to carry on. Never know with the Candace crowd. They've mass reported us. We've had multiple different live streams get shut down. Look, there is a lot going on in the world. Yeah, I'll just throw this up. But again, if you hit the description, which is if you're on YouTube, you hit the title of this video, it'll open up, it'll expand out, and a bunch of information is down there. You can jump on our newsletter. That's free. We don't spam you. We only send that out every now and then. Keeps you up to date. And of course, memberships. If you want to join as a member and support the channel, we appreciate that. Just like always, I will we'll do like a normal podcast, and then at the end of that, we will definitely take your questions. If I see some interesting comments or some interesting super chats, we'll throw those up there, and of course, we will prioritize the super chats throughout the stream. Look, we have this whole thing going on with Iran, and there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, and this is being hijacked as a psyop, just like everything else in the media, mostly coming from the left. And mostly coming from the candy cults and the woke Reich, as I like to call them. A couple things that I do want to share with you real quick. One of the things that we're seeing time and time again is that Charlie's corpse is being hijacked by all these people that hated Charlie. And I want to show you some more examples of that in just a moment. They hated Charlie. They disagreed with Charlie on everything. And now they want to pretend that they're Charlie's best friend. And I am including Candace in this. And they're suddenly here to protect Charlie's legacy while they destroy TPUSA, while they destroy Erika. I mean, it's the biggest grift I've ever seen. A couple of things I do want to highlight very quickly here. We'll play this video in a second. But last night, I hadn't even heard of him before. Owen Benjamin, he has a pretty big following. But he decided that he was going to comment on one of my tweets. And Owen Benjamin, this is what he said. I said something about Charlie. And then he said, then why do you guys kill him and cover it up? Was it because his vocal opposition to war with Iran? In your defense, no one could have predicted that Erika Kirk would shit the stage so hard. And my response is, you see how these scumbags who hated Charlie Kirk are trying to hijack his corpse. Owen Benjamin hated Charlie Kirk before September 2025 and expressed it openly. Yet he and Candace, Charlie's best friend, were already following each other and had friendly interactions. I wouldn't engage with someone who regularly attacked my best friend. Let's just look at some of the things that Owen Benjamin, the now champion of Charlie Kirk, had to say going back to 2024. Unlike America's right wing with digital thought leaders, Haitians are capable of actually having sex with a woman and having children. Fuentes, Charlie Kirk, they all consider it voodoo and do anything outside a man's ass. Really kind words for Owen Benjamin. What are you talking about? I heard Charlie Kirk was electric with his "our trannies are hotter than the lefties' trannies" bombshells. And this is just a small sample. Here we go. Can anyone find a pic of a black with his hands against the Israeli beggar wall like the one Charlie Kirk just had to beg at? Do they let blacks do it? For the record, Christ Cuck isn't mocking Jesus, it's mocking the Zionist slaves who used Jesus' name to die for financial crimes. I thought this was obvious, but don't of my Muslim listeners don't like anyone mocking Jesus. I'm not. It's like calling Charlie Kirk a gaytriot. Charlie Kirk is at another gay bar calling it a grocery store. So these are the people that now want to pretend that they are defending Charlie Kirk. And the facts say otherwise. These people are the biggest conspiracy that has ever been perpetrated on the American people is the attempt to turn Charlie Kirk's assassination into a much grander conspiracy. And we see all the people making money off of this. We see what Candace Owens doing, what Baron Coleman are doing, Ian Carroll, Owen Benjamin, and many, many more. They're trying to hijack this movement and steal it from Charlie now that he's dead and try to turn Charlie's legacy into something it was never meant to be. I did want to show you this as well real quick, just to set the record straight. Actually, I'm going to go to my latest post. And folks, if you're not following me on X, you should be. I thought this was really important. Here was a tweet from Caroline Levitt, and people are continuing to call this a war. We're not. This is a military operation. We've not declared war on anybody, and words matter, and we need to be factual. But they want to turn this into something that it's not. What I said here, comparing Iraq and Afghanistan to what's happening in Iran, is foolish and factually wrong. It's currently a military operation, not a war. The president has clear objectives that don't require deploying troops. This isn't nation building or a never-ending conflict. This is smart use of military power to prevent future large-scale conflicts that would put more of our men and women at risk and become prolonged. It is also creating conditions that give the Iranian people an opportunity to forge their own future. And I think it's very important for us to know what President Trump's objectives are. And these are things that you're never going to hear the left or the black pillars explain to you. But Caroline Levitt laid it out very clearly. On Saturday, President Trump released a statement laying out clear objectives to the American people for Operation Epic Fury. Let me reiterate them. Destroying the Iranian regime's missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. Annihilate the Iranian regime's navy. Ensure the regime's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces. Stop them from making and using IEDs or roadside bombs, which have gravely wounded and killed thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. Guarantee that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. Preventing this radical regime and its terrorist leaders from threatening America and our core national security interests is clear-eyed and a necessary objective. Killing terrorists is good for America. 49 of the most senior Iranian regime leaders, including Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, have already been wiped off the face of the earth so far in the opening strikes of Operations Epic Fury. Finally, while Operation Midnight Hammer did obliterate Iran's major nuclear sites, the regime was fully committed to rebuilding their nuclear program, and they refused to make a deal despite months of extensive talks and good faith efforts by President Trump's top negotiators. Simply put, the terrorist Iranian regime would not say yes to peace. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has actively and intentionally facilitated the killing of Americans while chanting death to America and funding other bloodthirsty terrorists seeking to destroy the United States and all of Western society. Prior American leaders were too weak and cowardly to do anything about it. Now, President Donald J. Trump is correcting decades of cowardice and holding these responsible for deaths of Americans accountable. So that's where we're at with all this. And lastly, because everyone wants to hijack Charlie Kirk, this is what Charlie Kirk had to say after President Trump bombed Iran last year.
And he's had the weight of us. And you might say, Charlie, do you support or oppose this? I support President Trump. That's my answer. I know the man. He's the commander-in-chief. He's the man for the hour. And he's had the weight of the world on his shoulders. So in a situation like this, I support my friend. And he's had my back and I have his. That's my perspective. By the way, I also look at this and I say, And I understand the arguments of people that, oh, don't intervene and all that. I get it. But boy, have we not exhausted so many diplomatic channels and options. Here is Netanyahu 261 praising and congratulating President Trump. Play cut 261. And you might say, Charlie, do you support or oppose this? I support President.
So that's where we're at. And I think a lot of us share that sentiment. Like, all of us are very skeptical of war. And trust me, I've been deployed 4 times in combat zones. I am extremely skeptical of war. And it's because we had really crappy leaders in the past that have betrayed our trust. But that is not President Trump. And right now we elected him because we want a new leadership. And I do think that there is a folly to be had, that if we get so entrenched in this isolationism that we just continue to ignore problems that are going to cause us bigger issues in the future. I think we'd all agree that if we could have done something early on and prevented World War II, we would have been much, much better off. But again, we were very dedicated to isolationism, and we can't let the traumas of the past keep us from making good decisions in the future. And I think the idea that we have a regime like Iran that has continually threatened Americans, have killed Americans, like this isn't even up for debate. It is what they are. Like, whatever the pretense was that we thought the pretense was to go to war for Iraq and Afghanistan, this actually meets and exceeds that pretense or our support, the conditions for our support 10 times over. This is why we thought we were going to Iraq and Afghanistan, but this is actually why we need to do these strikes. And hopefully we'll never have boots on the ground. That's what I'm hoping. I don't want a prolonged war. I don't want the war hawks to get involved and all of the other defense contractors get involved and figure out how to exploit this and make lots and lots of money off of it. Because if that happens, the military industrial complex gets involved. We will have a never-ending war. We're going to have bases all over Iran. And that's not what I want. I don't want us to build their nation. The other thing I do want us to do, though, is give the Iranian people the opportunity to make their country great again. Because Iran used to be a great country. It could be a great country. It could be a great ally in the Middle East with the United States. But that's not where we're at right now. So I just wanted to hit that. And the last thing that I want to bring up before I bring on our great guest is this right here. I thought this is definitely worth sharing. So we just had a federal jury award a $10 million to a University of Idaho history professor, Rebecca Schofield, in the defamation lawsuit against TikTok influencer Ashley Gillard. The tarot card reader from Texas, which, between the astral projection and all the other mysticism that Candace has decided to interject into her podcast, she's not far off from a tarot card reader. Repeatedly and falsely accused Schofield of orchestrating the November 13th, 2022 murders of the 4 University of Idaho students, Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Goncalves, I don't know how to say her last name, Xana Kernodle, and Madison Mogan. Gillard kept posting dozens of videos on TikTok claiming that the Professor Schofield was responsible for the killings and that she had an inappropriate relationship with one of the victims. Professor Schofield, who was a chair at the university's history department, had never met the students and was out of town when the murders occurred. In December 22nd, Schofield sued for defamation after Gillard refused to stop posting the false viral videos. A federal jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before awarding $10 million in damages, which included $7.5 million in punitive damages and the remainder for emotional, physical, and professional harm. In June 2024, U.S. Magistrate Judge Raymond ruled in favor of Schofield, determining the video statements were oppressive, fraudulent, malicious, and outrageous. Brian Koberger was later arrested for the murders, and in June 2025, he pled guilty and received 4 life sentences. Gillard represented herself in the trial, claiming her accusations were based on intuition rather than facts. That sounds awfully familiar. FYI, under federal law, the award is non-dischargeable in bankruptcy because of the malice finding. Gillard will be paying on it until paid in full. So this is a little ray of hope. And I hope Candace Owens and all of her surrogates are paying attention because their just desserts are coming. I really do believe that. Now, the question is, will there be anything left for TPUSA and others to even have access to after the Macrons are done with them? I don't know. That remains to be seen. All right, folks. So I have talked a lot. Without further ado, I want to go ahead and bring on our guest tonight. Dana, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to, well, here, I was talking to you earlier. I was not interested in watching the Candace Owens slop that we're going to subject ourselves to, but I'm glad you're here with us, and I'm glad you're willing to do that. And then afterwards, you and I are going to talk about some of your research. You've done a deep dive into Candace's background, and I'm excited to hear about that. But if you will, just take a moment to introduce yourself to everybody. Let them know who you are, where to find you, and what you're about.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Dana Duda on Twitter or X, and RottingJewels everywhere else. I have a podcast called What is the Process, which focuses on the factual history of the process Church of the Final Judgment. That's kind of my main game, and with that comes Scientology, and that is how I got into researching Candace, because of her, I say, handler. It's my opinion. John Mappin, the Scientologist out of the UK. There's a lot of high strangeness there. I have a lot of questions, and I am the only person on the internet that I know of that has had Candace strike a YouTube video down because I used the black book, the old black book that's been out. Been on the DOJ website, the one that was posted to Gawker many moons ago, showing that John Mappin was in that book when she was talking about, how she met George in one of her many retellings. And I just think that her behavior is odd. I also do have to make it clear, though, because this is a much bigger platform than mine, that I'm not political. I don't lean on either side. I don't engage in any of that. I'm here for the research. I just happen to be really good at genealogy, and Candace happened to not do such a great job with covering who her family was, because I've found her family and she lied. So, I mean, that's really ultimately eventually what we're going to be talking about, because I've tried to watch some of these Bride of Kirk, I think that's what she calls it. I watched the first
Charlie.
one and a half, Bride of Charlie, and I'm sitting there and I'm like about to throw my phone every 5 minutes, because I'm like, but you lied about the same thing. You lied about the exact same thing. Like, I have countless examples of her doing this. So I just tell people, protect your minds, go look for yourself. I don't know why anybody believes her at this point. We've run the gambit from, it's Israel to Mormon beekeepers to she's Nostradamus. I mean, I don't know where she's going to go next.
Yeah, and we were talking about, and I think it's great to have you on. Like you said, you're not political. You're not going to carry water. That's one of the things you said to me for Erika or Candace, and you are straight down the middle as far as all this goes. Doesn't seem like you got a lot invested in this, and I think that's great. One of the things that I actually wanted to do was have a Candace supporter on. I actually invited Zach Costello, and if he's listening, he's welcome to come on. And I actually want to hear their side of some of these arguments. And so I think the next best thing, not that you're lesser than Zach, that's for sure, but hearing somebody that, look, I'll tell you right now, I am invested in this in multiple points because of the evidence. And I got to a point where I saw the evidence, was very convinced that the evidence points directly at Tyler Robinson. And then once I saw what was happening and the things that were being said about Erika, the things that were being said about TPUSA and ultimately Charlie's legacy, I started to defend them. And I do try to make sure that I'm staying objective and assess these things. One of the things that I even question myself on, like, there's these things that people say Erika's lying about. And when you dig into them, I disagree with that. But I am conscious that I may have some bias there. But even if Erika flat out lied about all the things that they're accusing her of, to say that she was involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination is such an illogical leap, and is such it's just dumb. I don't know what to say about it. It's so stupid, because people can take hours and hours of footage or whatever else is going on and try to twist them or interpret them in different ways, and they can call those lies or whatever else. But again, there's a big difference between not being completely honest while you're public facing compared to you murdered your husband. And I think that distinguishment is extremely important. It should be common sense, but I do think that there's a big difference there. So anyways,
I completely agree.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on, and she's already live. I guess we'll go. Look, I do see a couple of quick super chats. I'll hit those before we get started, and then we'll stop every now and then to hit some chats and comments and other things. Thanks for the backup in the comments lately, everyone. Great teamwork. Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate you guys. And look, the other thing that I've seen is I have seen a lot more people and a lot of people from our comments that are out there pushing back on some of this stuff. And that's what we need. That's why they're so effective. And we do need to be coordinating. We need to be saying, hey, this is the truth. These are lies. And as many people as possible, the smallest voices to the biggest voices, fighting for the truth. And so I appreciate seeing you guys in the comments, whether you're, defending Erika, pushing back, whatever it is, it all matters. And what you guys are doing, it matters a lot. You see the clip on Jay Witt's show, guy who allegedly worked for Candace. I know about it. I don't know the full details, and I haven't watched the full thing yet. And that's something I do plan on watching when I have an opportunity to. Dr. Altoids, God bless the president, our military, and Americans with integrity like you fighting back against the grifting chaos agents trying to sow division. Oh, and those scammed us. Look, the other thing that I find disgusting are these people, and we talked about on the show, that automatically side with Iran. Just tells you what kind of... I would find more credibility in you if you were honest enough to say, look, I hate Israel. That's fine. All right, you hate Israel? I couldn't care less. You're free to hate whoever. But because of that, when I see you by default start supporting Iran, who is without a doubt guilty of killing thousands of Americans, and you automatically side with them, and it sounds like you're even siding with them over the United States itself, I have a real problem with that. And in my mind, you are a traitor. I don't think there's anything else to call you. And it also shows that you're dishonest. You're dishonest because, even if I hated Israel, there's no way that I would be able to side with Iran and try to pretend that these are equal. They're not. They're not even close. We have a regime that, number one, supports, you talk about pedophiles. I mean, look, pedophilia is systemically implemented all throughout Muslim culture, period. Whether it's marrying child brides or bashabaki, right? Whether they're actually going out and look, they use boys for pleasure and women for reproduction. That's what they do. And nobody condemns that. There is no bigger pedophilia ring out there than Islam, period. So you can have all the outrage that you want over the Epstein files. It doesn't come close to what happens in Muslim countries. And, that's just the facts, whether you like them or not. All right. I hate to do this, but we're going to do it. We're going to jump over here and pull up Candace. And Dana, anytime that you want me to stop and you want to make a comment, just speak up.
Well, before you hit play, it's interesting that you brought up Owen Benjamin because he was like the first person with a big amount of subscribers or followers that saw the research that I was doing, and he shouted me out, and he was being inquisitive about what I had found. And then within like a week, he's gone full blown. I call her Candy Hook, but he's gone full blown like Candace cult. It was just weird to watch him make that move. I didn't know who he was before that, but people were like, Owen Benjamin retweeted your stuff. It's just people are operating too much out of emotion, in my opinion. So we'll see. Thank you.
Well, let me ask you this. Going back to Benjamin, I'm trying to avoid going to Candace here. But Owen Benjamin, do you think that is an ideological shift, or do you think that is just for the money? Like, where do you think that comes from?
Oh, I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, he's a comedian, and so he could see the money on both sides. But I don't know. It seems like he's had an ideological shift. I mean, I don't know. I call him a pansy sometimes on X because he just really has flipped and is just repeating what I see people repeat from her because I don't really watch her, you know? I watch clips on X that people share, and that does save me from having to watch it, but his tone has swung in an opposite direction, and especially like you said, you know, he had really valid things to say about Charlie Kirk, and it's like, guys, at the end of the day, this is kind of the feeling that I've held is regardless of your opinion about Charlie, you know, a young man is dead. He was murdered, and there are children without their father. And that is the most important thing. But now we're just caught up in all this nonsense instead of focusing on the fact that a young man lost his life and young children are without their dad. It's all really odd to me. Everybody's behavior, I think that everybody's acting very strange.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. What I found, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't really know who he was until he commented on it, and I went and researched him. I think I've probably seen him here and there, but nothing that I paid attention to. And what his number one goal and his entire point of being on X is the anti-Jewish, anti-Israel theme. And what I do think is happening with a lot of these people that, like, they are infatuated, they're obsessed with Israel. And they think the Israel is the cause of everything. You can talk about Ian Carroll and Ryan Matta and many others. And I do think what's happening with a lot of these people is they know that Candace is full of shit, but because it furthers their narrative and gets more people on their side regarding that, they'll jump on that train even though they don't believe in it. And to me, that's kind of my assessment of what's going on with that. But all right, steel yourselves, everyone. Here we go. We're going to play some Candace and try to make this as fun as possible.
All right, you guys, happy Monday. It's looking like war with Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, war with Iran. I don't know how many Goyim must die for the Khazarian Empire to be reinstalled, but can I just say that they really did a good job gaslighting us last year, didn't they? They just lie. It's amazing how they lie. You guys are panicins. That's what they called us, panicins. After Operation Midnight Hammer, which was Trump agreeing on a limited strike on Iran's nuclear sites. We told you the truth back then. They wanted a full-scale war. That's what Bibi wanted. That's what the Zionists around Trump wanted. And the one person who stood between America's involvement with a full-scale war in Iran was Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was at the White House, and he convinced Trump that it was a terrible idea that would crater his support and ruin his legacy. Bibi and his minions, they were angry about that. Charlie Kirk, 31-year-old, he's the person that's stopping us from getting what we want. It is my personal belief that that is the very reason that they colluded to have that obstacle eventually removed just months later. That's what my timeline reveals to me, that it is very likely a plan was set in motion after Charlie beat Bibi's desires at the White House. Now, I believe on the basis of evidence that Charlie's murder was likely a very sophisticated military operation that was meant, and here's the funny part, this is how insane these people are, ironically, they wanted his murder to galvanize American support behind Israel. That was their plan. That's why Bibi immediately got on the air to remind you all how much he loved Israel, right? They wanted to all get out there and say that because they didn't want us to learn that Charlie had actually abandoned their cause entirely. So Charlie was removed, and in his place, we got a Shabbat Shalomin, not so grieving widow.
I owe someone a quick apology. 2 goats and a dog. I was trying to ban somebody else, and I think I banned you on accident. I will remedy that after this show. I apologize. Again, the chat moved on me. I will fix that. And who was it that I was actually trying to ban here? Somebody else. Or it could have been the right one. I don't know. I'll research it. I'll figure it out. If I ban someone on accident or any of our mods do, let us know. Send us an email, dlpodcast@ParamountTactical.com. But I'm going to research you. Don't worry. We're going to figure out.
This is the book my Charlie wanted you to read. He just finished it. He loves the Jews. He just finished speaking about how much he loves to Shabbat and to Shalom and to say daddy's home and to throw down his phone, Barry Weiss. It's just incredible when you think about it all coming together. Who are you, Erika Kirk? I seek to know. Welcome back to Bride of Charlie.
We have nothing to hide.
I'm going to be honest. There are some words that I want to echo out like a battle cry. Here they are.
President Donald Trump has said, I will not allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon because he has said when crazy people have weapons of unthinkable violence, you have to deal in reality. The longer I live, the more I realize that puritanical, ideological approaches to situations like this are not helpful. On one side is the Lindsey Graham, John Bolton types, where they are actively calling for regime change. Here is Lindsey Graham. This is just lunacy. We want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. And that sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas. It has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya. So I'm pointing to the first extreme right now, the neoconservative extreme, the we must go take off the head of the snake right now. And Donald Trump is doing a phenomenal job of resisting these calls for regime change. Yeah, the Ayatollah is awful, but maybe he's one of the few guys that can keep that country together and not have a 90 million person civil war. Lindsey Graham is so consistently out of his mind, it's hard to even comprehend. I honestly don't think the neoconservative extreme needs to be represented philosophically anymore. It's uninteresting to me. They've done a mess of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, the entire Middle East, Ukraine.
I just want to put this out there right off the bat. Donald Trump is not Lindsey Graham. And this is something that Charlie Kirk understood. And of course, I don't care where Charlie Kirk is on the sidelines and what his political and philosophical ideas are when it comes to how we should use our military forces. There's information that obviously that Charlie Kirk doesn't have, as well as many other people. Now, there may be no secret information that would change my mind, Charlie's mind, or anybody else's mind that Donald Trump has, and he decides that he's going to use some sort of military force. But again, going back to that video that I played at the beginning, just like he posted that comment after the use of force. All right. He said, I trust Donald Trump. And I think that's where most of us are. And until we see some sort of betrayal of that trust and we escalate this further or turn this into some prolonged war, I think he deserves that trust. We sure shouldn't listen to the left on any of this.
Know what the neoconservatives believe.
Oh, Charlie, if only you knew that they're trying to convince us that the legacy of Turning Point USA is actually neocons. Neocons will be opening for AmFest, people that want war, people who are cheering about regime change in Iran today are the very people that your wife is going to hand over the keys to. Trying to convince us that that wasn't your perspective, that you didn't have issues with these people philosophically and morally, right? Moral blackmail, what these people were doing to you in the end. By the way, have we heard anything from that new CEO and chairman of Turning Point USA? Any statement over the weekend underscoring what Charlie's beliefs were? She loved Charlie, which, like I said, explains why she must have invited all of his enemies to sort of hostilely take over what he built. These people are shameless. So shameless, in fact, that over the weekend, his quote-unquote best friends, despite us being able to clearly hear what Charlie felt about Iran, about the idea of regime change in Iran, his best friends, the amazing McCoy and, of course, wargaming Blake Neff, actually got into his studio and shared this. Take a listen.
He
also always did have trust with the president, and he would look for the bright side of things. And he was an American patriot, so he would pray for our success once that began. And I just want to say that to offer perspective on how I think he would have felt about this. And that's not to use Charlie as a shield. That is not to say everything just revolves around him, because he's not with us anymore. But I know all of us are feeling the lack of Charlie in a moment like this, because he was a natural leader of the movement.
Well, I think that's also, like, as soon as all of this broke out, you saw that social media immediately went to go find Charlie clips, because he still is, even in death, like the leading voice on a matter like this.
Well, and sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and it makes me upset, though, because
Thank you, Lace.
these people that didn't actually know Charlie, like you said, in private, he would be not happy with the situation, and he would express his thoughts. You would oftentimes see him talk about it on the show, but then as soon as this would happen, he would have trust in the president. He would try to calm people down, and so it's really irritating for me to see so many people on social media have the opposite reaction, to use his voice to actually cause chaos, to actually cause fear of the situation, to actually cause hatred of President Trump in this whole ordeal, when actually that's not what he would want.
It really is just amazing to watch it. It's shameless, like I said. It's just shameless. They don't even care. They're going to get there. They've got the ghost of Charlie. Aha, we can direct the ghost of Charlie. Why are you sharing these old clips of him as if he would have stood against the president, even though he literally stood against the president and told him not to go to war with Iran? Trust me, if he would have been here, he would have been supportive of what the president is doing, which was explicitly against what Charlie shared in his own words. Shameless. Like Erika, having been slated to record something alongside Bibi Netanyahu and Ben Shapiro. No one even believed me. I tweeted that about a month ago. They were slated to record something ahead of the Super Bowl. I don't know if it was for the Super Bowl, but it was just ahead of the Super Bowl at Mar-a-Lago. And last second, whatever they were going to record got canceled in the umpteenth hour. She was teaming up with Ben Shapiro and Bibi Netanyahu. And then maybe somebody was like, hey, this isn't a good idea. Because she loved.
Hey, just to put her lies in context, folks, I want you to see what Charlie Kirk said after. This is after he bombed them. President Trump bombed the Iranians in June. All right, this is what he said. Iran gave President Trump no choice. For a decade, he has been adamant that Iran will never get a nuclear weapon. Iran decided to forego diplomacy in the pursuit of a bomb. This is a surgical strike, operated perfectly. President Trump acted with prudence and decisiveness. Again, all of these other tweets after that attack, all right, after we struck Iran, all in support of the president, all in support of what we did. So for her to sit there and continue to lie and to pretend that Charlie Kirk was completely against all of this, it is, look, what Charlie Kirk was against, just like I'm against, and I believe President Trump is against, and that is a long, drawn-out involvement into a war with Iran. I don't think that's going to happen. If it does happen without good justification, I'm going to be back on here and saying, hey, I disagree with this. Still doesn't mean that I would vote for a Democrat, just not where I'm going to be ever, because I know they want to destroy this country. I would rather someone that wants this country to succeed make possibly a bad military decision, a decision that I don't have all the information to even decide whether it's good or bad to begin with. He has a lot more information than we do. So, again, she wants to. Candace's biggest lies are the lies of omission. And this is just another example of her doing just that.
Charlie. She loved him like Lyndon Baines Johnson loved JFK. No time to grieve. She needed to be sworn in as the new leader before his body was even cold. In case you didn't know this, LBJ was actually a crypto Jew, as they term it, a Jewish gangster. Crypto Jew, to be sure. More on that later. We'll talk more about that later. But first, let's recap what some of these characters that we've been introducing to you on Bride of Charlie, let's recap them because it's good to remind ourselves of all of the people that are in this very elaborate story. First and foremost, we introduced you guys last week Dr. Jerry Franzwey. She's like Dr. Jerry Franzwey-Steen is what I'm going to call her. That is the first wife of Erika's father, Kent France Bay. By the way, I then learned that they were married. I don't even know if I'm
So she's just going to add Steen to the end of this so that she can attempt to smear her, I guess, as a Jew. Like, I don't even know what's happening right now. Like, why would anyone find this credible? Dana, what's your thought on that?
She likes to play this with the name game, and again, like I've done her family tree, I would throw it right back in her face. She's making an argument that doesn't exist just to make the argument. She's using, DuPont, Crypto Jew, Steen, it's all of these things that she thinks are trigger words. Like, she got this little Tavistock like checklist of what trigger words are for people, and she thinks that she's edgy and using it. And it's like, what does this have to do with what you were just talking about? And like, why are we even going off on this rabbit trail about LBJ being an alleged crypto Jew? Like, it's dumb.
I mean, it is. And the fact that here's my thought though. The thing is like right now her viewers are just in awe of the brilliance. Here in just a minute, we're going to hear something along the lines. Did you know that for her 8th birthday, somebody gave Erika a dreidel and a menorah? Like, this is where we're going with it. It's so painful to watch and like take this seriously.
saying this right. Baha'i
Oh,
temple in Chicago. That is where they were married. Just dropping that little tidbit for you guys. Dr. Jerry, we learned, was raised, these are her words, not mine, in a strict Mormon household. I guess then she must have become Baha'i. She was knocked up at the age of 14, married by the age of 14, a bookie turned psychologist, creator of the Tesseract model. Radford University gave her a research center, a gender research center. And guys, I forgot to mention this to you, but Radford University, their seal and their yearbook is the Beehive. I can't make it up. I cannot make it up. Anyway, back to Jerry. We also learned that she worked with DuPont Chemicals. So DuPont Chemicals, a psychologist. She also worked with the Bush family, and she conducted, which we'll get into later, gender research specifically in Eastern Europe. Amazing. So many ties to Eastern Europe, Bosnia. We're going to get into that. Another character that we introduced you to was Uncle Jack Solomon. He is married to Erika's aunt, Carla Solomon. He graduated from what is today UVU, or at least that's what his resume says, his bio that he's given throughout speeches and his involvement. It was formerly called the State College, so it was Utah Valley State College, CS. He helped to build the UVU campus as a board member for UVU Center for Jewish Studies, professor of political science at BYU. I should mention, Jack was also the founder of what is today known as Bally Technologies. He's relevant because we're going to be speaking a lot about the casino connection to a lot of people. And Zion's Gate in Israel is his family's dedication, not Erika's, but his family's dedication. And of course, probably the one that took us on the greatest journey is Lori Abbas Stanley, Erika's mom, Lori Abbas Stanley Wallstad Francebay Gwinta. She's even divorced from Larry Gwinta, however you say that. We'll just leave it here because we're going to build on her today. But corporations are coming out of her ear. She's got so many companies, and then they are never filing on time. They've got to be shuttered. Her first marriage, by the way, because some people message and ask.
No, like she never said any of that stuff last time. Like there's so much that she's adding to from the last couple of series that she never establishes fact that now she's just throwing it in. Like some of these things that she's now adding to this were not even mentioned or as direct links to the way that she's direct linking in here. We'd have to go back and go through the multitude of BS things that she threw out. Like that's the problem with this. She throws so much garbage at you that to go back and even confirm one thing, much less all of these things that I don't think are true, because we've never seen any evidence of this. Like everything that we're learning about any of these people, we're literally just taking Candace at her words. From the amount of LLCs to the link chart that she had in there saying that there's 500 LLCs, that all this, like it is literally just her word and pictures on a screen. And then now she's making even closer connections that I know were not established in the last couple of series episodes. So it's just like, this is not only is this obviously information operations, psychological operations, whatever you want to call it, it's really poor. It's bad. This is not the same people behind the Mitch Snow story. Like I don't know where those two things kind of jump from, but this is slop. This is just pure utter garbage slop. Dana, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, you can't expect anybody to fact check you when you're just constantly throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks and moving on to the next topic. And, you know, she's a female, so I feel okay saying this, that it's not out of pocket. You know, she acts like she's smarter than everybody. She's very disrespectful. She has a nasty tone. And don't get me wrong, you know, there's a time and a place to, you know, have that kind of behavior, but you know, she acts like she's under attack. And so this is why she's, you know, behaving this way. And it's like, girl, you have the top rated podcast in the entire world. Please shut up. Nobody is attacking you except for yourself. This is all just, it's her jumping from thing to thing so that nobody can catch up, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like, who does this work on, though? That's my question. Like, who just sits back and like, yep, this is all true. Guarantee it. Like, I don't even care if, I don't know. Going back 6 months ago, the only person that I'd be able to say like a parallel that someone that I would genuinely trust would be Tucker Carlson. All right, that bridge is burned. But Tucker Carlson, if he was throwing all these facts, even I would be like, this doesn't make sense to me, Tucker. Like, I'd have to go back and fact check some of these. Or really what I would do is I would dismiss all this in my head. I'm like, you know what? I'm not even putting that in the old brain bucket there, because I don't know if any of this is true. That's not going to be part of my analysis of anything, because these are unverified, silly facts. Yeah, I don't know. Philip Tabarek says, Gary, the view is that our government is rogue and not operating in the best interests of the people. You can actively root against a tyrannical government while being patriotic. I agree, Philip, and that was kind of my point earlier. Even if you think, here's the thing, you would never hear me root for Iran if the Biden administration was in the middle of doing something that I disagreed with. You absolutely can and should, and it's the American thing to do, to dissent politically. When I see people like Ryan Matta and all of his hundreds of thousands of followers rooting and saying that they're praying for Iran to strike Israel, when I know that there are Americans all throughout Israel. There are American diplomats, there are American soldiers, there are American tourists, there's American business people. I mean, even if you don't like the Jewish Americans that live there, they're still freaking Americans, whether you like them or not. They shouldn't die. So that's my point with this, is you've lost the plot when you start. Look, regardless of what you feel about Israel, even if you think they're our sworn enemy, and I know there's a lot of people that feel that way, objectively, Iran is our sworn enemy. For sure. They would kill every American if they possibly could. That is a fact. I believe that down to my core. And when you're rooting for them, there's something wrong with your brain, period. Hopefully that clears it up. Thank you, Melinda. Gifted 5 Paramount Tactical memberships. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. She is such a liar and bullshitter. People that believe this must be completely mental. They're definitely delusional. Her prattle reminds me of trying to BS a last-minute college presentation hungover. Keep exposing the nonsense. We will. This is the same thing she did with the Macrons. Dissected people's lives to make absurd connections. She never actually proved anything. Yep, and I can't wait to see them completely dissolve her bank account. I worked with longtime liars, Candy does the same stuff, moving between topics, building, making connections to things that worked before, and that grin when she feels believed. Her whirlwind is coming. All malicious gossip, TMZ garbage is more factual. Like, there's no comparison. TMZ is garbage, but at least it's much more convincing and compelling, and they're definitely far more factual. Thank you guys. We'll keep this going a little bit.
Asked was to a man that sort of disappeared into the military.
Here
His
we go.
name he actually passed away, James Melvin Stanley. Here's a photo of him. I am struck by how much he looks like Brigitte. I just want to say that this is the only photo I could find of James Melvin Stanley, her first husband. She got married to him, I believe, when she was 19 years old. But I looked at this and I went, mad. This looks like Brigitte. I don't know, just like a little funny little side thing. That's her first husband. She then married John Robert Wallstad. Do not yet have a photo of him. Just know that where Lori goes, fraud follows. Lotteries, casinos, gambling. These are familial themes, which we're going to build upon today. So let's keep with Lori. On Friday, we let you guys know that Erika's mother, Lori, has always used an Erpenbeck brother on her paperwork. He's signing things for her, helping her to form these many corporations. Rick Erpenbeck is his name, whose brother Bill did over 2 decades in prison for financial fraud, trying to kill his sister, threatening to kill his sister, burying cash on a golf course, just run-of-the-mill stuff, And Rick's father, Tony, tried to arrange for the kidnapping and murder of some kids because he was upset that he was getting time in prison. And yeah, like I said, run-of-the-mill stuff for a family. Well, one of you guys emailed us and alerted us to something pretty interesting.
Nothing more substantive and factual than unconfirmed tips from the tip line of her anonymous email address. I guess her email address. Anonymous tips from her email, right? It's freaking crazy.
But we were kind of imagining whether or not they still had a relationship today. We can now confirm that it's not just Lori who was close to Rick, but Erika is close to Rick as well. Now, I want to be clear. Rick Erpenbeck did not do any time in prison. He said, I was a young college student. I don't know why my dad transferred me all of this money. And I'm very close with my brother, Bill. He was honest about the fact that he's close with his brother, Bill, throughout his testimony. This is his family. But he didn't do nothing, and he don't know where this money came from. It's a story. He's sticking to it. He did not serve any time. Important to stress that. Like I said, I don't know that I would be super close with a family like that. Full stop. Well, you should know that Erika considers Rick to be her uncle. Like, again, she could just be saying uncle, like when you get close to someone, they've been around you your whole life. That's my Uncle Rick. But that's the reality. If her Instagram is to be believed, if her Instagram account is to be believed, then you should know that she's very close to this person, because on December 1st, 2018, she went down to Universal Studios. You should know that that's where Rick works. And Erika documented that trip. She was with her mom. She's always with Lori. Lori's always in the background. And here is going to be very quick here because it's Instagram stories that she has saved, but you're going to see Uncle Rick. Take a look here.
Butterbeer? Butterbeer! When you pray and dream to be in show business, be specific.
By the way, I should mention he's high up at Universal. It makes me wonder if that could have been a potential pathway for her to win Miss Arizona in 2012, because NBC.
She does not pass up an opportunity to make some unrelated connection to smear somebody and their accomplishments. Like, she can't ever let it go. It's Dana, you jump in here whenever you want.
My brain is getting smaller and bigger, like the pressure. So my brain is getting bigger and pressing on my skull. I feel like I'm going to have a stroke, and it's also getting smaller. It's complete brain rot. I'm like, I'm waiting for the bomb. Every episode I'm like, what are we doing here? I'm going to be honest, like I sometimes think that I make leaps because people accuse me of that, and her fans have hard accused me of that. I'm like, oh no. Like I'm academic at this point compared to her stuff. I mean, this is just all over the place. I don't get where she's coming from, and I don't know why she's going so hard on her mom. It's like, what does Erika's mom have to do with your alleged best friend's death? Aren't you trying to get to the bottom of that? It's just an odd thing to focus on.
And even if her mom was a known and convicted serial killer, like what does this have to do with anything? What does it have to do with her?
If she was a sick convicted serial killer, then it's like, hey, let's find out if she's the one that murked Charlie. Like, is she a good shot? Whatever. Like that would be like a very valid question to bring up. But here she's just it's like where she can take one topic and just run it down for episode after episode after episode, and then she just moves on to the next topic, and there's no real conclusions that are drawn, no real answers that are given. But I think she's bombarding her audience with so much information that they can't keep up, and they don't realize when she's moved on.
I'm doing my best to keep up. I mean, I'm paying as close attention as I possibly can. It's just there's too many moving pieces of this. And then again, anytime that she has an opportunity to DJ in just another little jab that makes no sense, it just makes you look spiteful and petty, by the way. It just makes her look spiteful and petty. But she can't resist that. And the crazy thing to me is, again, her followers, if you're like, okay, where's the evidence of any of this? That's not what they will turn around and say, prove her wrong. Prove all of this stuff is wrong. I saw that multiple times in the comments today. Like, just prove her wrong. Do your own research on Erika and prove her wrong. Like, no, that's not how this works. Like, no, prove that this is legitimate information and provide us with some documents that document these things as opposed to these just random facts. And that's the way that all con artists and disinformation agents work. They provide things. They can provide you evidence of the non-material elements of the story. And so they can bullshit you on the material elements of the story. And that is her go-to MO every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, people, I saw one comment where they said, oh, you guys should just prove her wrong instead of looking into her. This feels like a smear campaign. And I was digging into Candace because everybody else went with Erika Kirk is trafficking babies out of Romania, and she killed Charlie Kirk. Like that was immediate within a week. And I just saw the inconsistencies with Candace, and I was like, well, it doesn't really seem like this has been done, so I'm gonna put my efforts here. And it's like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Why? It's not the impetus is not on me to prove her wrong. And the impetus, quite frankly, at this point for myself and the information that I have is that these are documented facts, what I am going to share eventually with you guys about Candace, that she cannot refute. She's tried in varying ways, including with her audience, by changing timelines, changing certain pieces of names, things that she accuses everybody else of doing and makes it seem like it's a criminal conspiracy when someone else does it. Again, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. She shouldn't put it out there if she doesn't think that it could come back to her.
Yeah, well, if she didn't have double standards, she'd have no standards at all. Brittany Bevel says, hot take, do you think her producer researchers hate her and are attempting to sabotage with the trash she's putting out, and Candy is too lazy to fact check? No, you know what I think? I think that Candy has come to the end of any substantive anything. It's not even interesting at this point. And she's back there with the whip, making her producers come up with something to create some sort of controversy in the story. And this is where we're at. That's what I think. I think they're totally on board, totally trying to help her out. And all they have left is straws. And so that's what you're seeing. Is it just me, or does Candace Owens seem especially snarky today? Looking forward to Dana's research. Yeah, because she's selling. Like, there's no way to make this interesting. So she has to be especially nasty. And the other thing I want to say, it seems like all of her worst hot take episodes, she has this particular hairstyle going on. Like the ones that require the most selling, this is the hairstyle that she goes with. Just a I don't know, observation there. Thank you, Susan, for the super sticker. I did want to bring this up. We know that we lost 6 service members. I believe it was yesterday. War is not without consequences. The idea, and this goes back to what I said at the beginning of the show. The idea here is that we take action that minimizes consequences, both near term and far term. And I do think, you guys let me know what you think down in the comments. I do think that taking a nuclear Iran off of the table is potentially, whether it's 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. I do think that Iran could potentially be an existential threat to the United States one way or the other, and definitely a threat to peace in the Middle East. Like, there's nothing beneficial allowing that regime to move forward. At the same time that they're trying to get nuclear weapons, they're chanting death to America. Well, we brought death to them, as Pete Hegseth said, and I think like we got to take people at their word. If you're going to go after nuclear weapons at the same time you're saying you're going to kill Americans, like we're going to bring our forces to bear. It's the prudent thing to do, by the way. Iran so far away, official music video by Dr. Foxotic. LOL later on. I will check that out. Keep kicking butt, Dana. You deserve all the recognition, and thanks for hanging in there with the rest of us watching this nonsense. Shout out to Shady Lady Katie. She was on the other day, and most importantly, she's the one that introduced me to Dana's work, and I really appreciate that, Shady Lady Katie, and enjoyed having you on the other day, and we'll definitely have you on again soon. LOL, I'm loving the clips of Erika's family. They are so cute, right? Don't know how she lays her head down at night. Can't imagine a friend dragging my dead husband and dying mother through the mud like this. God have mercy. G.I. Jen, as someone who has lost friends and family in the military complex, I am getting really sick of her talking about the U.S. military. She's a demon. She brings up the military every single time with disgust and suspicion, and it irritates me too. And I try not to bring that up very often because I know, I'm definitely biased in that regard. But she takes every opportunity she can to demonize the military. It's just fact. Maybe Erika's uncle at Universal Florida worked on the Mummy ride, and that proves the Egyptian plane connection. Yeah, I mean the same thing. It is the exact same logic. There's a clear connection there, actually. Scamdus has overplayed her hand by flooding the zone with irrelevant details. Her shows like Jerry Springer and the National Enquirer had a podcast and were ran by morons and retards. I mean, it literally gives National Enquirer a bad name. Papa Jamma, thanks for becoming a member. And last, before we get back to this drivel, I'm proud of our brothers and sisters who are serving, and rest in peace to our heroes. Exactly.
Universal Studios, they split ownership back in 2012. Trump owned half, and NBC Universal owned the other half of the pageant. Anyway, I have no proof of that. I'm just saying that that's an interesting tie that Rick is working over at Universal Studios. Now, like I said, for some people, proximity to criminals, non-starter. That's how I would say I live my life. Being close with your brother who tried to kill your sister probably wouldn't be my thing. Both Lori and Erika, it's fine. By the way, I do want to also add that that's one of my favorite things about like gangsters. Like, I'm looking at this family, like, who are the Erpenbecks? Because most people, if they have like a traffic ticket, they got to show it. They got a record. Like, oh gosh, this is going to hurt my chances of getting a job. Erpenbeck, kind of a big deal. $34 million went missing, and he's at the top of Universal Studios. Just incredible. I don't know. I feel like if my brother was like the Zodiac Killer or something, I probably wouldn't be able to go down and work for Disney or Universal Studios. Anyway, moving on. We told you last week that someone sent us the remaining documents pertaining to Lori and Kent's mysterious divorce. Can't even get a decade for when this marriage happened. Just have no idea if it happened in the early 80s or if it happened in 1993. the prevailing narrative from the debunkers is that the initial filing, which I would like to remind you, only had 4 statements of fact, a one-pager. It was simply a clerical error when they listed Erika's birthday as November 22nd rather than the 20th of November, which is the birthday that she has today. Now, to be clear, there was no cleric involved. It's a document filed by Lori, sitting down with her lawyer, reviewing it with her lawyer. And by the way, when you go into a courtroom, you have to swear if the statements are true. You have to swear if the statements are true. The birthday was what we showed you. Also,
I think Candace is going to get a lot of experience in that very soon.
Featured on 2 separation agreements authored in 1995 and authored in 1996. So separate documents. But we couldn't access the rest of them. And then I told you someone sent them to us, and we can now show you the remaining filings. We have, at first, I'm going to show you this joint shared parenting plan, which is, you can see, filled in by hand on January 8th. I'm going to go with 1998. That was my best guess. It's hard to tell since someone tried to edit it by hand again. This is real life, so you just do what you want there. But the point is that Erika's birthday is again listed as November 22nd, 1988. Okay. Then came an amendment to the child support plan, which was drafted on September 10th of 1998. And it is, in my opinion, the most egregious of all the filings. I just want to show you this. There's no notary. There's no judge signing off on another page of it. It's really kind of just Lori. I think
doesn't have to be. My parenting plan with my ex-wife was done by hand as well, and looked over and then just submitted into court documents. Look, I'm trying to fact check this as we go. I basically put into Grok, and Dana, if you want to try to fact check this, because I think this one's important. It kind of stood out to me. I said, did Erika Kirk's uncle try to kill his sister? No, there's no credible evidence. This is Grok's. Take it for what it is. It's AI. It's not perfect. Never take it at face value. This is what we're finding so far. No, there's no credible evidence or report that Erika Kirk's uncle tried to kill his sister or attempt to kill, excuse me, anyone in her family. Erika Kirk is the widow of Charlie Kirk. Searches for details about her uncle in connection with any attempted murder, violence against a sister, or related crimes turn up nothing substantive. One mention refers Uncle Jack Solomon, married to her aunt Carla and her father's sister, described in niche online posts as a casino tycoon with ties to Utah Valley University and Jewish community involvement, but no evidence of that, and no violence, attempted murder, or family betrayal is linked to him. Other scattered references, e.g. in conspiracy-oriented ex-posts or videos, speculate wildly about Erika's family ties, alleged secrets, or involvement in unrelated events, but none describe an uncle attempting to kill his sister. Broader family-related stories in the results involved unrelated crimes. So anyways, that's where we're at right there. I'll continue to look that up. That was just one of the things that stood out to me. It seemed like that'd be easy to verify or check. So far,
I don't understand. Like, what is the purpose of showing this parenting plan? This feels like, to me personally, it feels like she's really losing the plot. And and again, I'm not on either side, but objectively, this is her losing the plot and getting into things that aren't really necessary. Like, guess what, Erika? I have your dad's arrest records, and I'm not going to show them. I'm never going to show them, but they are public records that you can pull. Obviously, if it was a, violent or white collar crime, something like that, that would possibly be relevant to the discussion, that's fine. But I'm not here to air out everybody's dirty laundry. So this just feels gross and invasive and unnecessary. Like, what is the purpose of this?
I think it's, like I said, I think they're grasping at straws at this point. I don't know what else to say.
Even her attorney was like, this is a bridge too far, even for me. And Lori was just like going off of vibes there. And I just I would be remiss if I didn't show you this signature page, because I find the signatures to be very similar between her and Kent. And remember, we're supposed to believe Kent waived off his rights without a notary to these documents. So Lori's kind of running the show. Then I'm going to show you this November 10th, 1998 final decree. This time, Erika's name is typed in. And once again, consent of the health insurance company. In this case, it's listed as Aetna. What is entered in as her birthday is November 22nd, 1988. And I want to be clear, this is all for child support. So actually, the only date that really matters here is Erika's birthday. You want to make sure you have the right kid. We're moving on. We're in, it's 1999. They're still, everyone's confused and thinks Erika's birthday. They're actually not confused. They're consistently telling us that it's November 22nd, but we're not done. Let's fast forward to 2004, because maybe from 1995 to 1999, multiple people, including the parents of the child, were just making clerical errors. Maybe what's needed to straighten people out is a new decade. Y2K vibes. Let's get into the 2000s. Well, in July of 2004, Kent defaulted on his child support payments, and the enforcement agency recorded the default plus Erika's birthday. And as you can see, once again, we have it listed here as November 22nd, 1988. Apparently, there isn't a clerk across 10 years that can type in 20 as opposed to 22. Let's go 2007. Let's just, because I like 2007, right? Good memes. I graduated high school. They released the final installment of the Harry Potter book series, which I was reading. I mean, I just feel like nobody got anything wrong in 2007. Fantastic year, right? Except for whoever filed for Erika's child support emancipation. Now she's 18. You don't got to pay child support anymore. You got to go back and file things. And once again, her birthday is listed as November 22nd, 1988. The point I'm making here is everything about this marriage, everything about this divorce, everything about Erika's early years is shady. And the beginning matters. The beginning matters deeply. We opened this series reading Elizabeth Lane, the investigative journalist, her thesis that she presented that Erika Kirk might be a psychopath, not a sociopath, but a psychopath.
Number one, the main thing that she's pointed out is a 2-day discrepancy that seems to be a clerical error that seems to be continued throughout some different court documents that the average reasonable person wouldn't find all that compelling, interesting, or even care. And this is another thing that she constantly does. She constantly talks about things she clearly know nothing about. And many of you have pointed it out, just like I said, like when I was doing in family court, half the stuff was written down and just put into, like, as we went, we were working it out, that stuff right out there in court. And then it went into the docket, right? Like it wasn't filed. We didn't have it notarized. But yet it's very odd to her because she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's going to be odd when you think you know how something works and you don't know how it works. Like, this is one of those people. Could you imagine her as a new employee that comes to work for you? This is like the nightmare employee that thinks they know everything, that is completely untrainable. They know how it all works. They've never been in this industry before. But this is what she reminds me of. Like, look, I got this. I know how this works. And then they screw it up. They couldn't do it more wrong. And this is what she does. She projects her very simple, non-experienced life and her conclusions about things she knows nothing about onto everybody else. We pointed this out about the bomb dogs. All right. We talked about that. The fact that bomb dogs are not gun search and rescue. Bomb dogs do not find guns. All right. Unless they're specifically trained to find guns. There's a big difference between the two. And she made a whole thing about it and how you can sit and leave a gun out for weeks at a time and a bomb dog will find it no problem. It's super easy. She doesn't know what she's talking about, but she speaks it. She says these things and speaks with confidence that she shouldn't. I mean, because she doesn't know what she's talking about.
She argued that is what disturbs us when we see her speak. Something's not right. The brain is registering that words are coming out of her mouth, but the expressions are not right. The actions are not right. And our body kind of has a natural defense system that comes online. Before we can even register what it is that makes us uncomfortable, we pull back. People say, I can't watch her. I can't listen to her. I hope she does well, but I don't even want to watch this. Even those people that do support her, Elizabeth Lane noted, they can't watch her. I want to build upon that. Psychopaths are not born. They are created. Okay. They are created, and typically they are created in their youth. If the work of Sigmund Freud, who rather obsessed himself with creating psychopaths is to be believed. I would respectfully submit to you all that
Isn't this crazy how much she has went on a tear about how evil and wrong and incorrect psychology is in general, but yet she's fallen back on psychology and the work of Sigmund Freud to verify that indeed that because Elizabeth Lane, who is a nobody, we're going to pull her up in just a second, is saying that she's a psychopath. Like she doesn't have any letters behind her name. I don't know how much you've looked into that, Dana, how much she's kind of
she sounds like a Scientologist. I'm just gonna say it because this is what I researched. Scientologists are very anti-psychiatry, anti-psychology, and I'm sorry if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And she has this really hard bend against, psychology in general. And again, don't get me wrong. Yeah, you can critique anything, but you should try to be balanced about it. But she just pulls this out when it's convenient for her. And you just got to wonder. She sounds very much so like a Scientologist when she says these things.
Couldn't agree more. We're going to bring up Elizabeth Lane, who she's referencing essentially as a subject matter expert on psychology in just a second. But let's play some more of this.
Erika's childhood is actually the most important piece of the puzzle. Because no matter what anyone is trying to tell you, Erika is not posting her mother in the way that she is without intent right now. Okay? She didn't post her mother for years. And then she suddenly moves to post her mother in a vulnerable, sick position a mere days before Charlie's assassinated. Two to 3 days before he's assassinated. That registers to me as emotionally manipulative. I don't know many people, or really any people, who would move to curate an Instagram reel of their mother in that condition. Most of all, I don't know many people who would want or allow them to, right? So that tells us also something's not right with Lori. Something's not right with Lori. Why would you want someone curating these moments of you and putting it online as if to say, hey, don't even look here, leaking to people that she's like, without any clarity, it's not coming from Erika, but she wants you to imagine. One person said, oh, I heard her mother has cancer. They're putting this out here without any clarity. Who is Lori? Lori's a very interesting character. I think, like I've said to you, her mother's got a lot of problems, but what somebody dug up, something that Charlie shared about Erika's mother, is shocking. Absolutely shocking. More about her ancestry. I'd like to apologize in advance to sports fans. We'll tell you when we get back from a little break. All right, you guys, thanks to you last year.
All right, you guys. No, we're going to skip through this. All right, guys, we're just going to skip right on through this nonsense.
Go through it quickly. You have probably heard maybe vaguely the conspiracy, quote unquote conspiracy, from people who print the textbooks, that we're being ruled by the Khazarian Mafia, right? This empire that existed 8th and 9th and 10th century and then magically disappeared. Magically, nobody knew. It was a Turkic tribe. They were a nomadic tribe, and then they mass converted to Judaism. Okay. But they were not ethnically Jewish. They mass converted to Judaism, and they mixed in. Okay. They mixed in with people who were actually Jews. And they call this a conspiracy, that the people that live in Israel right now are the Khazarian Mafia. They call that a conspiracy. But if you read books that were printed in Israel by the Israelis, they themselves declared that they were Khazarian. You could look.
What a dumb argument to make. Could you imagine somebody saying, oh, well, the Americans did this and this. And if you read books that were printed and written by Americans, like as if just because it's written in Israel, it makes it factually true. Real quick, I just got to jump over here because she keeps referencing Elizabeth Lane and going back to her psychology diagnosis and the fact that she's trying to say that Erika Kirk is in some way psychotic. Let's just take a look at who Elizabeth Lane is real quick. Elizabeth Lane began her career as an actress and producer. After spending years in theater and a few more in the movie industry, she decided to transition to journalism. We always love when actors become journalists, don't we? Her education in law and international relations proved to be a great asset, facilitating a smooth and straightforward transition. Currently, she works as an independent journalist, having held positions such as talk radio show host, podcast host at D2K, writer for The Real Reporter, and investigative journalist in Unified TV. Additionally, she's an author of multiple reality shows. An author of multiple reality shows? What does that even mean? Could you guys imagine like pulling if I ever pull up a tweet and it's some sort of clinical diagnosis by an actress, just freaking leave my channel, never come see me again. But she is going back and attempting to say that based on her diagnosis that is true, and spent 20 minutes reading the longest tweet ever sent on X the other day, the beginning of her entire series, that and presenting it as some sort of fact. While at the same time, out of the other side of her mouth, she constantly says that psychiatry is evil, it's wrong, we shouldn't listen to it, but we should listen to psychology and psychiatry when we have an actress and a journalist tell us that is true. Like it's hard. It's hard to do this, folks. It's hard. I don't know what else to tell you.
Look, a guy named Abraham Pollock is an example who wrote a book, did all of the research. He was awarded for his research and said, hey, we're that tribe. We are the Turks that mass converted Judaism. And then he was told that was inconvenient after they awarded him. After 1948, they were like, oh, no. We're claiming we're the original Jews of the Bible. So like, let's just get rid of all this research. Something else that you should know about this conspiracy, actually, rather something that's definitely not a conspiracy.
I mean, did you guys see all the proof that she laid out for you right there? I mean, that is proof. That is hard facts. That's science. Some books were written by somebody in Israel, and therefore it's true. That's where we're at. Like I feel like I feel stupider for every moment that I watch this. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I feel like I'm becoming psychotic, and the next thing you know, I'm just going to be walking around clapping like a circus seal, saying that Candace is right and you need to prove her wrong. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of losing my brain to the body snatchers here, and the next thing you know, I'm a Candace cult, and I'm running a bot farm to help her out.
Outside of Hollywood movies, that Italian mafia, it was actually Jewish, maybe Khazarian Jewish. Hollywood was, as we know, factually started by Jewish gangs.
Oh my God. Like, please someone inform the Italian mob that they're actually Jewish.
I don't think they're going to take this well.
I do love me a kosher cannoli, though. I do.
Universal, MGM, there's no hiding that, okay? There's no denying it. Initially, they were carnies, people that were running the carnivals. They wow people with illusions, right? The occultists. And then they said, let's do this on a larger scale. Let's do movies. Let's get people to pour into cathedrals, put on a show. That's why you go to a carnival. Oh, it's so much magic and illusion. Well, I want you to understand that movies are another illusory trick. It captures your imagination, it captures your emotions, and it's almost never based in reality. For example, the prevailing narrative is that the Italian mafia just...
You mean like this show? Nothing here is based on reality.
Yeah, literally.
She's playing us, folks. She's trolling each and every one of us. She's got to come out like episode 5 or 6 has got to be like, just joking, guys. I just want to see how stupid you people are. And you know what? You're dumb. You believe this? You're dumb. I left you. I was telling you the whole time. I gave you every opportunity to get off the train, and yet you stayed on the train. I just wanted to prove to the entire world that every person, I don't know what the percentage of Americans actually is, that follows Candace, you're a moron. Well played, Candace.
It would be an epic Rickroll if she did that at the end. I would respect her if she did that. If she did one finale episode and she just said, guys, I've been screwing with you the whole time. Thanks for the money. And then she just logs off and walks away. And that's it.
She would have a follower for life in me. I'd be like, you know what? Thanks, Candace. You did us a
For
service.
real. For real. Game recognized game. Like if she did that, but I think her ego's too big and her handlers won't allow it.
I would be like, you know what? You inoculated us against this conspiracy / psyop for the future. Thank you so much. Thank you. And like, you know, she was in cahoots with Erika the whole time. Like, I just wanted to, we were talking the whole time. We were just going to show the world. It was something that Charlie wanted to do. We're going to show the whole world how and gullible the majority of you are. This is something that he wanted to do. It was in his will. It was in his journal. And we got together. We pulled it off just to show you how dumb most of people out there in the world actually are. Alas, I do not think that's what's going to happen, though.
For no reason. We don't know why. They partnered with Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel, the Italian, and then the Jewish mafia got together. No, yes, the Italian mafia. They spoke Italian, but that's because.
But they were Jewish. They spoke Italian. Their family was Italian. They ate meatballs made of pork, but they were actually Jewish.
Because they emigrated to Italy after revolutions. Reality, and you need to listen to this backwards and forward and do your own research. The reality is that in 1881, the Russian Tsar was assassinated by a Jewish revolutionary gang from what was known as the Pale of Settlement. Okay. So you had a Christian empire, and then what was carved out was like, if you were Jewish, you had to live in the Pale of Settlement because they required that you were Christian if you were going to live within the kingdom. The world was dominated by Christian kingdoms. And so you know that expression when you say that was beyond the pale? Probably don't even know why you say that. Oh, what he did was beyond the pale. You're actually referring to the Pale of Settlement, which is where the Jews had to live. Now, they were allowed to work inside of the kingdom, but you had to be a Christian to live within the kingdom. The Pale of Settlement consisted of modern-day Poland, Ukraine, and Lithuania. This is very important for you to understand this. After the assassination, many of the associated people that were involved, little gang that put together, they emigrated to Italy. They emigrated to the United States. You learn this in your textbook as there were pogroms. Like no context for no reason, kicked out of a country. There's actually no evidence they were ever kicked out, but they left. The revolutionaries left. And there were actually all throughout this time frame, by the way, these sorts of revolutions happening all across Europe, trying to overthrow and divide Christian kingdoms. Deeply organized revolutions.
All right, real-time fact check. Beyond the pale does not mean whatever the heck she just said. The phrase beyond the pale means something that is unacceptable outside the bounds of a civilized or proper behavior or beyond the limits of what is considered tolerable or decent. It originally comes from the word pale, which historically referred to a stake, a pointed wooden post driven into the ground, and by extension, a fence or palisade made of such stakes. From Latin palus, a pale thus came to figuratively mean a boundary or enclosure, making the limits of a protected or controlled area. Has nothing to do with Jews. Not everything goes back to Jews. Not everything goes back to Israel. I know Candace's followers are going to be shocked to hear that. I'm also going to be looking up whether or not Bugsy Siegel was actually a Jew somewhere, but we'll hit that in a minute.
Initially, they failed. German revolution failed. Italy, Austria, failed revolutions of 1848. They were commies. The revolutionaries, you could also refer to the revolutionaries as murderous psychopaths. And then they emigrated in mass into the United States as victims. And they brought with them their revolutionary ideas. I like to say they were anarchists, obviously, but also you should think of them as gypsies in the truest sense of the word. They will learn any language, become what they have to come, move wherever they need to move. And wherever they go, they bring their filth with them. Okay. We get these migrants into the company, and then suddenly the people that assassinated the Tsar, then we get the first bombing in America at the Haymarket Square in Chicago. That involved, quote unquote, German immigrants. The assassination of President McKinley, done by a Polish man named Leon Czolgosz, who was radicalized by a Jewish Russian immigrant named Emma Goldman. Her family was from the Pale of Settlement. They were not like poor living in the Pale of Settlement. They were wealthy Jews, educated Jews. There are tons of books about what they did. I could do 12 episodes on Emma Goldman, by the way. Her alone, the amount of assassinations connected to her. She was also the woman that was behind Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood. Emma's boyfriend, also from the Pale of Settlement, tried to assassinate Henry Frick of the U.S. Steel.
He
literally shot him. You know, you've probably heard the story. They shot him, but Henry Frick survived. They're just murderous communists. I don't know what to tell you. And they did that, tried to kill Frick because they wanted to establish unions. So you learn in school, oh, it was about workers' rights. Yeah. They organized these worker strikes and these protests, and eventually they were successful in establishing unions because that allowed them to establish racketeering, mafias. You guys know unions are associated with mafia and the mobs. This is our inheritance. Our entire history and our present is a gangster's paradise in America. Hollywood exists to glamorize the filthiest people, that work in the most debased industries. It's not entertainment. It's always been disgusting. It's always been about filth, prostitution, importing people from Vienna and trying to collapse.
What group of people haven't been involved in lascivious activity and illegal activity and prostitution and slave trade and, you know, gambling and murder and extortion? Like, name a group of people that weren't involved in that. Like, if that's what you're going to use to, like, some sort of trace something back to Erika, I don't even know where we're at in this. We're at Bugsy Siegel. We're at Beyond the Pale. We're Polish assassin, President McKinley. Like, I don't know where we're at. But what I can tell you is, like, all she did was describe human beings. Human beings. I don't care who you're talking to or talking about. What group of people, we've all have been involved in murder, extortion, theft, prostitution, slave trade. Everybody's involved. Everybody's guilty. If we go back to, we could prove that Erika Kirk killed Charlie Kirk because she was related to Noah and Adam. That's where we're at. That's how ridiculous we've gotten at this point. I mean, seriously. What you think, Dana?
I think that her argument, if she wants to take it there, then let's go there, because, you know, her Blyden side of the family comes from the Caribbean, and if you know anything about the Blydens, they've been known to weaponize Yoruba voodoo out in the battlefield in times of war. So, I mean, if she wants to talk about bringing in the dark arts, I mean, we can talk about it.
Well, what I can tell you for sure is that if her family is from the Caribbean, I've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, and so therefore I know there was a lot of really bad stuff that happened there. So I can't wait to dig into that. I mean, piracy, murder, you name it, it happened. Dear God. She's in the manic phase of bipolar cycle. I mean, why not? Why not? If we can get Elizabeth Lane to diagnose people and we take that and pretend there's any credibility in that whatsoever, Diana Cooper, I guarantee you're more credible than Elizabeth Lane, sir. Whatever her name is. Yeah, Elizabeth Lane. Non-starter to being close to criminals, but she's close friends to Tate Brothers and gave Harvey Weinstein a platform. Talk about being a hypocrite. Couldn't agree more. Shady, there's a reason she gets labeled demonic. There it is. Wait, there's a doc showing Erika Kirk was born on the 25th anniversary of 11/22/63. This connects to Erika Defamation. Somebody in America wrote that in a book somewhere, so it must be true. You don't have to ask me. You can ask the Americans. Somebody wrote it. Candace does not have any semblance of family. That is why everything is weird to her. Remember, she left at 14.
I would disagree with that statement. I would disagree. Lie. Fake news.
According to Dana, she has plenty of family, and she disagrees with the fact that she actually left at 14. We'll dig into the evidence of all that here in just a little bit. Candace hates Jews so much that she's literally using Charlie's corpse for her own sick agenda. I knew it from the beginning. This is everybody on her side of this argument. That's like the one thing that they all have in common is that they are obsessed with Israel and Jews. Like, everything links back to Israel and Jews. And I don't care if you don't like Israel. Like, if you don't want to like Israel, you don't think we should be sending them money. I think that is a real argument though, that we can have. We can have that discussion. A good political discussion about where we send our money overseas. Completely open. But when it goes beyond into Jews are in everything, like we see here, like this, we're weaving Jews all through everything. It gets pretty crazy. And it's clearly a bigotry and an obsession that doesn't make sense. It's not found here in reality. Gary tagged you in a post by Stealth Medical Annex. I will check that out in just a moment here. Anyone else need the cliff notes for this bullshit? I'll be back. I was just thinking to say, I don't drink. I think I need to start drinking just to get through these episodes because they are a doozy. All the hoots, no kerfluffles. I'm going to have to compartmentalize this episode in my brain so I can not have PTSD. Is Princess Leia Candy's hairdresser? At least everybody's having fun with this. I think we know where this is at this point. Common Core math makes more sense. She's great at trigonometry, though. Has anyone else wondered why a wealthy Oxford-educated aristocrat would marry a semi-educated dolt like Candace Owens that his parents don't approve of? Not only do they not approve of her, he spoke out strongly against her. Oh, Lord Farquaad, Farmer, whatever his name is. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. No Limit 88. I've taken care of thousands of patients with mental illness, and she acts just like many of them. Doesn't take much to sell me on that.
America, successful all across Europe, what they did. The Christian empires got divided, and here we are today, right? This is what we're facing in America. You have to understand this. So you get to this mafia, you get to the mobs, you get to, obviously, usury. You will always know them by what the filth that they bring.
In 14 more episodes, Sheila, we might be able to find out.
Yeah. Okay. Think about the Great Depression. What was that about? Oh, now we need, we got to establish this, the Fed. We got to establish the Fed because of the Great Depression. And the history of sports is an interesting subject. We start bringing that up because sports was a distraction. It is a form of entertainment. I'm not trying to ruin these things for you. There's so many incredible movies about the history of sports. I love Remember the Titans. It's legitimately one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Love it. But I would say that I don't have a truer sense of what or who began the sports industry. I'm just a girl. Never wound up here. But I'm telling you this because
who invented the sports industry? Like, we've had sports since the time that we found a rock that we could kick around and see who could kick it the furthest or throw it the furthest or run the fastest. Like, my God, were the Greeks that were running Olympics back then, were they the Jews that were here to just give you bread and circus? My God.
I think Lori Franzway is rotten to her core, and I therefore found it
out of all that, we just went through all kinds of weird connections, and then just out of the blue, we said, wait, I just think that Lori Franzway, after we just created this whole freaking jumble of nonsense, out of the blue, Lori Franzway is rotten to her core. No connection, no relation to anything we just spoke about. Just a statement of fact with nothing to back it up.
Unbelievably interesting that someone located an old interview, an Ask Me Anything segment from Charlie Kirk's show. The person emailed me and they said, Candace, quote, I listened to Charlie's podcast, the rebroadcast last night by the TPUSA crew regarding his thoughts on the past Super Bowls. Charlie was speaking about the Green Bay Packers and mentioned that Erika's mom is a direct line to the Lombardi family. Oh, I thought this might be an interesting piece to your puzzle, they concluded. Excuse me? A direct descendant to Vince Lombardi? Now, for those of you that don't follow sports because you're just a girl too, or more specifically, those of you who do not follow American sports because Americans think football's so big, but obviously it's just confined to America, Vince Lombardi might be the most famous American football coach of all time. Okay, of all time, he is actually so famous that the Super Bowl trophy is named after him. So once the football players, whoever wins Super Bowl, they receive what's called the Lombardi Trophy. That's named after Vince Lombardi. Okay.
Like 99% of Americans know this. 99.5% of Americans over 5-year-olds know this, and she feels like she's just laying out some revelation for all her retards. Okay.
The Green Bay Packers and people in the comments are going to kill me, but I'm pretty sure that was the first Super Bowl ever. Well, I'm going to have to look that up. Skylar, you can look that up for me. I'm not positive. Erika Kirk? A direct descendant?
Oh my God.
No, I'd have to hear Charlie say that myself. That can't be right. Well, sure enough, we went to investigate, and Charlie did communicate that very fact. Take a listen.
The Packers won the first Super Bowl. You know, my wife Erika is from the Lombardi family.
Really? Is that right? Seriously?
Yeah,
That's royal
her
blood.
mom.
So the only thing I'm hearing right now is that Erika is actually a national treasure. That's what I hear. I don't know if she thinks this is some sort of smear. She's from a long line of people contributing to this country. That's all I've heard so far.
Her mom's a Lombardi.
That's
Literally,
crazy.
Isn't that insane?
That's royal
Like
blood.
how close? Like is she
Like direct bloodline.
like lineal descent from Vince?
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, we have all this Packers stuff at our house.
I didn't know that.
Whoa.
That's interesting.
Isn't that
That
great?
is wild.
And I'm from a huge Bears family, so I don't know. What to feel about that.
Whoa.
I'm just going to let you guys digest that. Oh, Lori.
She's going to let you digest that. Like, what's the implication here? I don't know. No, like, tell me what I'm supposed to. Tell me what I'm supposed to feel here. I don't know.
There
what I'm
is
supposed
none.
to feel. Oh my
Lori, direct descendant from Vince Lombardi? I can tell you my first thought was, Charlie's not lying, because take it from me, he's not dumb enough to tell a lie that big on camera. Okay? He's not going to do that. He knows they will fact check him real quick. So my only other option was, is Erika lying? Obviously, I would rank that as a strong possibility were it not for the fact that Charlie said that they had a ton of Vince Lombardi's paraphernalia around the house. A direct descendant, lineal descendant from Vince Lombardi. You're hearing this from his own mouth. Erika's mother, he is saying, is a Lombardi. I said, Charlie, not known for hyperbole. He knows words have meaning. A direct descendant, therefore, would mean that Lori is Vince Lombardi's offspring. Or yeah, that's really our only option here, given the ages. Lori is born in 1950. And I have to say, once I heard him say it, Lori and her sister, Deborah, do look like Vince. I see it. And I thought it was interesting that I could never find a photo of
I hope it's true.
her parents. Curiously enough, though, the person listed as her parent, Angela Lombardo. Well, that's actually, yeah, her name was Angela Lombardo. And curiously enough, we can confirm that her mother is a Lombardo. That's her maiden name. In other words, Erika's maternal grandmother is Angelina Lombardo Abbas. You can see that here in this obituary from 1970. The bottom there, it says that. Angeline, wife of Joseph Abbas of Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay, so what's going on here? Because that still wouldn't make her a direct, unless people have multiple identifications.
Oh God, here we go.
I can't get there, but I know that Charlie is being pretty explicit and saying direct lineage, and I don't have photos of Erika's mom, of Lori's mom and dad. I wanted to present that because there are many rabbit holes that ought to be explored in the story. I cannot chase them all down because I need to now focus and bring you guys into understanding what happened with Erika and Pageant World and how she was truly brought on Turning Point USA. But I want to share this anyways because it feels very significant. That is not casual. And I'd like to apologize in advance to all the football fans. I know you're thinking, can we have anything? And the answer is no. We cannot have even one thing. Figure it out, guys. Figure it out, internet. Is her name really Angelina Lombardo? Is his name Joe Lombardo? I don't know. Is Lori actually Vince's kid? Did he have one out of wedlock? I don't know. But a direct descendant means a direct descendant. That's, to me, is the only possibility. Why else would you be getting the paraphernalia?
What is the point of this detour? Like, what is the point of this Lombardi freaking detour? I don't even know what just happened.
Neither do I. And it's insulting that she has a paid staff of researchers, but she's expecting tips from the public on things that if I logged out and went into my newspaper archives, I could probably find in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Here she is. Here she is. Like, this is the biggest scam on the face of the planet. She's made somewhere over 30 million, somewhere around 30 million since September on all of this nonsense. That's what I've seen estimated. And I believe it, between merch, views, sponsorships, and everything else surrounding it. Somewhere around, and she can't pay someone to find this information. She can't pay someone, she just throws stuff out there. Like, I don't even know what just happened. What was the point of that entire detour? Makes zero sense. But it's just, you talk about slop. I mean, it doesn't get more sloppy than this. We saw this one earlier. Let me get a few more of these just to take a break from this. Why are all the crazy ones always the theater kids? More unhinged with each pregnancy, postpartum psychosis. I don't know. We'd have to ask Elizabeth Lane if we wanted a clear diagnosis. Thank you, S. Brown, for becoming a member. Thank you very much. You mean the same Vince Lombardi who gave fur coats to the wives of football players to thank them for the sacrifice they made to let their husbands play football? I really like Erika now. I agree. Yeah, she's now went from Charlie's wife to just straight up a national treasure with a long history of contributing, of a family that contributes to this country. She insinuates that Charlie would only tell the truth in front of a crowd. How can anyone even listen to her long enough to make a conclusion on her sanity? I think she's had watched way too much Don Lemon. I agree. And thank you for the big $100 super chat, Sean. We always appreciate you, buddy. I always love seeing you bringing up great points. Steve Eisner, show. Gary, just wanted to drop by and say hi. You and I often like each other's tweets on X about Candace. We've both been rightfully going after her since the beginning, and I can't let up, so I appreciate you. Steve, I've definitely seen your stuff, and yeah, man, let's get together. Let's get you on the show. The other person that I want to get on the show that we've kind of been, I don't know, adjacent to one another, and I know she shared my stuff, and I think I've shared some of her stuff. Lady Luck Club. Would love to have her on. She is a hoot. And this is one of the things that I want to bring up too, even now. Like, we are at a point where I've been able to get a lot of big names on, and we can reach out and get big names on. I love sharing these unknown, but extremely brilliant, small creators just like Dana. And, you know, we had Shady Lady Katie, Jason Witt, like all these other folks that are just good common sense people that are great people that should have voices, and their voices should be amplified instead of like, there's something that happens, and I hope it doesn't ever happen to me, and I hope it doesn't happen to any of these other people that we bring on. They get to a point where, like, it seems like they lose their brain, they lose their way. I don't know what happens. You know, maybe they just become so dependent on their income that they're just overly careful about what they say, whether it's the Benny Johnsons, Michael Knowles, whoever it is, Tatum's, I don't know. One thing that I am going to stay committed to, number one, I want to make sure that we have a business, and I always want to make sure that that's where our money comes from. This doesn't matter to me. Like, this does not bring in any sort of income that could possibly replace. And I don't care if we're doing 50 million views. Like, my message is never going to change. We're going to continue to bring you the truth, and we are never going to compromise our integrity. That's just the way this is. And again, love having folks like Dana on and introducing new voices to all of you. Blake Neff just blasted Candace on X for the lies in this latest episode. She's caught again. Covert, malignant narcissists use this crazy making. Yeah, there's some lifelong Packers fan who love Erika even more. I think most of us will after all of this. All right, let's continue to muscle through this.
Which is worth a fortune. And it would also mean that Lombardo and Lombardi are interchangeable, which Charlie has just confirmed, right? She says she's a Lombardi. But actually, according to obituary, she's a Lombardo. If that's the reality, if those are interchangeable, then we can begin to honestly speculate about Lori's potential ties to the Lombardo Genovese crime family. who had a lot to do with illegal gambling and racketeering. It's now all open, it's all on the table, and it is all of interest. Now, like I said, unfortunately, there are no photos of Lori's father and mother that I could find, but it's a strong lead, and I'm going to leave it at that for YouTubers and other sleuths to take a look at. Pivoting back to Erika and Erika's timeline, because now all of the characters that we've introduced to you are in place. You understand kind of the story that we're telling here. I wanted to let you know that we did receive a flurry of emails about Erika's missing year, also a lot of comments. And before we get there, I can tell you, we can confirm now that Erika did attend St. Ursula Villa up in Cincinnati, Ohio, but she attended what...
This crazy woman really thinks that wackadoodles commenting in her comment section or sending her emails is genuine affirmation of how true something that she stated on a podcast is. She doesn't need proof. She doesn't need evidence, but she loves the affirmation from the whacked out people. Who knows if they're even real?
We can document for kindergarten. So that was before she went down to Arizona. We have that photo for you guys here. This would be from 1994 to 1995. And you can see her, just for funsies, her name is spelled differently. It's with a C. Clerical. It's clerical error, another clerical error. They're all over. But I wanted to let you know, we thus far, no one with a yearbook at St. Ursula Villa has been able to confirm her for 2000 and from 2000 to 2002. So those years are still technically missing. I thought that was where she was for those years, but maybe we had it in reverse. We're going to keep building upon that. We also did receive confirmation from basketball players at St. Regis that we were correct. She did not play in the 2008 to 2009 season. Despite in the future, she's going to claim multiple times that she played at Regis for 2 years. She played basketball for 2 years. Well, I can show you this photo that we also gathered of Erika with her Regis University team members. This is taken in December of 2007, but she did not play. Regis University, like I said, her stats are still up. We could not find her in a newspaper. And now we have team members that are confirming that she did not play for the 2008 season. So the mystery remains, where was Erika hiding afterward for 8 months? Many of you guys thought that she went to have a baby. You guys, like, in my day, when someone went away for 8 months, it's because they got knocked up and they had to go away. And I've seen no evidence of that. I'm just sharing that because...
Well. She's basically saying that, did I catch that right? She's saying that basically Erika was pregnant. Is that what she's alluding to, Dana?
That's what she's alluding to without saying it. She does I'm not saying that that's what it is, but this is the game that she plays. She plays word games like that.
She wants her viewers. She wants her viewers, trying to be nice. She wants her viewers to come to conclusions that she doesn't even actually present, or at least not fully develops. But her sleuths are going to be hot on the case. They'll find out.
Because it was a repeat comment. I'm just going to keep following the facts and following Erika's words and sentiments that are shared. And regarding that year, someone sent us another clip of her verifying our timeline. So we are accurate. She goes missing in 2008 to, quote unquote, study the Bible.
Who verified your timeline? Like, is that all this takes? You know what? Hey, somebody emailed me and verified that this person that I'm watching is a lunatic. Therefore, it's true. They verified everything. Like, this is the and again, it's enough to trick our audience. They will leave this podcast, say this was verified. This is what's going to be said. This is what we're going to see on X. Just mark my words, Dana. Somebody's going to say, look, she proved she was actually pregnant and had a baby, and that's why she was gone for 8 months or whatever it was. And they proved it. They verified it. She brought receipts, even though she literally, and I've seen this, she provided a disclaimer saying that's not what she's saying. But I've seen that exact same thing happen multiple times. And I'm sure if you guys are paying attention, especially if you're on X or in the YouTube comments, whatever else, you guys have seen it too. There's so much that she throws out there just in passing, that people have now went on to present as not only did she say it definitively, but she provided evidence for. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then they say, oh, the naysayers or detractors, they clearly don't watch her, so they don't know what they're talking about. And it's like, it's unfortunate that you do watch her and you're still drawing this conclusion.
Yeah. Like, all you had to do was watch the full episode. If you watched the full episode, if you watched it all, if you watched it from beginning to end, I did. I watched the full episode. Oh, well. Candy O from Barnum's Freakazoid Show. My great-grandfather's last name was misspelled. Coming through Ellis Island doesn't mean it was shady. Thanks for continuing the fight against crazy. You're welcome.
To see what was, she didn't learn the Bible, as we showed you last week. She didn't learn because she was Catholic and they didn't really study the Bible. Then she got this time with her pastor's wife to just really learn everything. And she says then that it was for 8 months. Well, take a listen to her explaining this again on a different podcast called Don't Ignore the Nudge. Take a listen.
Like with Miss Arizona, I was so done with that world. It was very toxic. I loved my director. I loved the experience I had, but afterwards, it was one of those things where I was so sold out and focused on Christ that I didn't want anything from that past or that world to follow with me into the new season that I was about to enter into. And so for me, it was all about just, I literally had locked myself in my room and read my Bible. And the only person I saw for 6 months was my pastor's wife. And I just had her pour into me. We would meet for lunch or coffee. And I didn't see any of my friends. I didn't do anything. I just was so focused on that.
Okay, you hear it again. This time she locked herself in her room. She's just focused on the Bible. Self-taught. I mean, how much of the Bible could you read if that was the only thing that you were doing for, she says 6 months there, 8 months on a different podcast, but it's Erika, so we're not going to hold her to anything consistent. 6 to 8 months. How much of the Bible could you read? And like I said, she presented to it like that was her aha moment. She finally got to have this experience with the Bible. God, she learned it for real this time. Well, you might assume that she then became familiar with the Bible, but when it comes to Erika, you should never make an assumption, because now we're going to fast forward to her telling Sage Steele the story about how she got acquainted with the Bible, thanks to a Christian friend of hers, not in 2008, but in 2016. Take a listen.
The first time I ever read the Bible cover to cover was 2016, and it changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. And that's when I started. So it was me and another friend, and I put together the Bible reading program, and I sent it to my friend. I said, do it with me. I was like, because I don't know what I'm doing, and you've been a Christian your whole life, and I just want to have an accountability partner. Like, please read this with me. 2016, finished the whole thing. It was a wild year. Wow. And after that, everything was in Technicolor, and I was like, I get it now. I get it.
That gives me
and it
chills.
made me, and it's really interesting, because then if ever I do go back to sit in a Catholic mass, I'm like, now I get the Catholic side even more now after having read the Bible. So I wish that there was more, because even when you go to confirmation class and like all the things, I just wish they would have, and some Catholic churches are great at this. Some Catholic high schools are great at this. Unfortunately, mine weren't as good from the standpoint of, get your own Bible and let's crack it open. It was never really like that.
I don't know. I don't know what's up. I don't know what's down. With Erika, it's just, you don't know.
It's the only true thing she said this entire, that's the only thing that I know to be a fact in any of this.
The story is like, you could say she didn't read it cover to cover in the first 8 months, but I would imagine she didn't need her friend and turn to a friend 8 years later and go, what am I doing? If she had 8 months to study the Bible with a pastor, I think a pastor would be better suited than a friend. I just don't know what is real.
Like, anybody that has been in Christianity for any length of time, no, there's a big difference between reading the Bible and studying the Bible, and there's a lot of spectrum in between those two things. You can sit there and read through it and not really study it. You can read the Bible all the time and never read it cover to cover chronologically. The things that she just pulls out of the air that just reveal how ignorant she is of very common things. She just makes herself sound stupid. I mean, she really does. And I don't know.
With Erika, she gives me the vibe of someone
Giving me the vibe.
whose brain has been rerouted. Like the pathways in her brain have been rerouted from a time that she's a child. Like she just had to lie so much that she doesn't even recognize that what she's doing is lying. Like she just says something and it's like, this is what works in this room.
Oh my God. Has there ever been more projection ever take place than what we're hearing right now? Like somebody cut that snippet, replay it. Because I'm going to right after this. We're going to be cutting that. I'm going to be sending that out as a short for sure. Somebody can do that for me. I appreciate that.
Exactly as Elizabeth Lane described it. This is what works in this room. This is who I have to be. Okay, I'm sitting with Sage and I'm trying to now explain what brought me back to the Catholic thing. Like, okay, maybe I need to be Catholic this week, or maybe I need Protestant next week. So I said it at that podcast that I did it because I didn't have an appreciation for Catholicism. But now I'm saying that studying the Bible made me have an appreciation for Catholicism, which I wasn't getting. It's so all over the place. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know, other than someone who was programmed and has had to tell so many different stories that she can't really pedal backwards. She just kind of just keeps going and just keeps swimming and just keeps swimming. And what she's going to say tomorrow is not going to be what she said yesterday. It's too many lies. She is obviously not fit to be the CEO and chairman of Turning Point USA, just on the basis of the amount of dishonesty.
There was nothing dishonest that was just said. That is a lie. That's a creation of a lie that didn't exist. And on the basis of that, we're going to say that she does not deserve to be CEO. It's not your decision, woman. Like, it's not your freaking decision. Like, who do you think you are that you can sit there and say whether or not somebody should be the CEO of anything? You don't know what she knows. By the way, she's much more educated than you, Candace. She has a lot more life experience than you, Candace. Like, and more importantly, Charlie Kirk married her.
That we can just show you using her own words. Okay? Just using Erika's own words. Trying to make sense of anything is a very difficult task. Anyway, we are going to be back after a break.
All
right, you guys.
I think that's about all I can take today. That was
Thank
I
God.
apologize.
I feel like my brain is melting out of my ears and my eyes simultaneously.
Let's hit some of these super chats, and then we're going to get to you. And yeah. All right. Sean Faulkner says she is a nutcase. I verify it. Erika was likely at Fort Hoctua with the Mitch when dumbass couldn't find her. Oh, thank you for that very generous $50 super chat on top of the $100. Thank you, Sean. We appreciate you, buddy. She sounds like my family members who has psychosis from weed. Wonder if she uses THC. Also, how the F does she gather so much info in daily? It's just a conglomeration. Like, it's definitely not congruent. It's the most incoherent, like, I don't know, just vomit of information I've ever seen. I knew the left was stupid, but this hijacking of the right happened so fast and seemed pre-planned to jump in motion after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Kind of scary how quickly we got here. So tired of nonsense. This is the thing that has kept me awake at night. This right here. Because either they jumped on this opportunity and exploited it so quickly, or there was something larger at play. And this thing right here, what he's saying is the thing that has brought me back to what I've been researching as far as mind control and weaponizing people, finding people, identifying people online, radicalizing them and weaponizing them and directing them to a target. This right here, because it happened so quick. I'm telling you, by September 12th, September 11th, when I was putting out videos, immediately I started getting comments immediately saying, "You're paid by Israel." And like there were things in place ready to go, in my opinion. inorganic elements of this. Now, this is definitely, I'll go put a tinfoil hat on. What I can tell you, based on my conversations with Chase Hughes, what is a very realistic scenario is that there could be someone from the left or from another country, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, whether it's Britain, doesn't matter. They could find somebody like a Tyler Robinson, radicalize him, weaponize him, and direct him toward the target, and have all of these things ready to go. I'm not saying that's what happened. I have no evidence of that. That is pure conjecture and speculation on my part. But it makes a lot more sense when you look at how much of this seemed to be in place, ready to launch. And you're exactly right. I don't know how many people would be involved in that. Again, it's complete conspiracy theory territory. It's complete conjecture on my part. But it's something that I think that does need to be. And by the way, I've heard that element is being investigated and taken very seriously. And I think there's evidence that points to some of that. Whether that was what happened here, whether that's what happened with Tyler or Thomas Crooks, whether that's what happened with some of these other mass shootings, I don't know. But I think it's something that should be taken very seriously and should be investigated. And, I welcome you guys. Start investigating some of that stuff. Start looking into some of this stuff. Because I think, Dana, would you agree by the responses? Let's just get her off here, by the way. We're done with her for today. Had enough. Taking all I can take. Do you feel like that, like your comment sections are getting hit by bots or sock puppets or like these artificial responses and replies and attacks? Is that something you've experienced?
I think that I chalk it up to it's 50-50. I do think that her audience is gullible enough to buy some of this stuff. And I also think that, and I mean, it's, I'm not saying that, the government of Israel is the only one that is using this new form of warfare, the internet. But they did say that they were going to pump in, about a year ago, a certain amount of money to change the social media landscape. I think that there's a benefit to be had by multiple nations to do that. So was this an opportunity here? I mean, yeah, absolutely, because it's like, that Black Mirror, like we watched what happened to Charlie in the Black Mirror that sits in your hand for most people in real time. And so that is a unique situation that they are able to, sort of villainize and seize upon. The money was right.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's like, whether it's 50-50, 70% real, 30% fake, like and by the way, like I'll have to find some of these as we get into some of this. I'll be looking through some of my X posts where I found these. And that's one of the things I'll pull up. I'll pull up these accounts that I'm like, this is a sock puppet or a bot account for sure. And then I'll actually pull up Grok and I was like, hey, does this account appear to be a sock puppet account? And it goes through and analyzes it. And more often than not, it's like, yeah, this definitely has the strong appearance of a sock puppet account. I'll show you some of those examples. And by the way, all you got to do, like many of you guys know that actually follow me on X, you start going through my comments, just the bizarre cut and paste, cookie cutter comments. Some of them get a little bit, but you look at the account and you start seeing the overword phrase of the year, pattern recognition, right? You start seeing that pattern of these low follower accounts that are, you go look at their replies, it's nothing but attacks on people that are in opposition to Candace. And you look at if they post anything, all it is reposting Candace, Baron Coleman, Ian Carroll, all of the usual suspects. And there's something very artificial about all of it. For sure, it's taking place. How you tie all that in, I don't know that we could ever on this side. That would be, you need some state-sponsored capabilities to be able to do all that. But, Dana, you talked about different countries, but even major political organizations and think tanks. Obviously, there's a lot of people in this country. And again, I don't know where you sit politically. I don't think it really matters. But there's a lot of people that are pushing, that believe in socialism, that believe in communism in this country, and don't want to see the right to succeed. Conservatives, Republicans, whatever box you want to put them in, Christians, whatever box you want to put them in, they are there to defeat them. And they're going to use all of the tools at their disposal, including information operations, which the most powerful tool that's ever been created, the internet. They can use that. They are, and they're doing a much better job than we are on the right for sure.
I think they are on all sides. You know, I'm apolitical. I don't know, I'm kind of jaded about a lot of that stuff, and I think it divides families and loved ones, and it shouldn't. I think you've kind of lost the plot at that point. But you know, it's yeah, there are people that are going to weaponize this technology against us, and it part of it is a distraction to keep everybody fighting, you know, because really it's, in my opinion, you know, it's more so treating your fellow human as they would want to be treated. I'm not like a hippie or a liberal. I don't identify with that either. My take is everything is fake and gay, and politics are included in that. But I am a believer. I am a Christian, and so you know, for me, I think something that I just have a hard time reconciling with, as far as Candace goes, is that she thinks that she's being a good sister in Christ, as she claims to be, attacking. And again, facts are facts. And so if you want to lay out facts and leave questions open, that's okay. Some information with Candace, I've had to do that because some of the paperwork only goes so far. I can obviously offer my opinion, and I'm very clear when I am offering my opinion. But, you know, you're not acting in good faith. You're not being a good witness. And that's where I have a problem with it, because it's like, I don't relate to you in that way. If you lost your husband, God forbid, and don't get me wrong, in my opinion, I think that she's a beard. I think that George is probably hanging out with the pool boy more often than not. I wouldn't be attacking her and being, you know, doing this whole thing if we were friends in some alternate reality where I go on this months long, you know, hit piece smear campaign, and at the end of the day, I just sound like a scorned lover about Georgie. It's just odd.
It is odd. Well, and even going back to what you're saying, I don't know if it's Scientology. I don't know if it's some weird Eastern mysticism. I don't know what she's got going on for sure. I agree with you. It seems like she's constantly smuggling Scientology into everything that she does, by the way. Regardless of what it is, what I can tell you for sure, she doesn't sound like any Christian that I've ever known. I don't care if they're a new convert. I don't care, like, the things that she describes and that she talks about and she says she believes does not sound like anything that I've ever heard from someone that constantly affirms that she's Catholic or Christian. I don't know. I found it perplexing. Well, let's get to the material at hand. So you've done a lot of research on her family, and I guess let's just start going through that. You can start wherever you want. You can preface that however you want, and let's get to something much more interesting, more fact-based than what we just had to watch.
Okay, so I don't know like how long we're gonna go. I know that we had discussed maybe splitting this up because it is a lot of information, and I'm not going to take you guys fully through the journey of research of how I got there because it was very daunting, and I'm going to explain why. So the only reason why I started looking into her really was because of John Mappin. I knew who he was, and I troll him sometimes because I like to troll these people, because he was making this weird claim about how Candace had helped him become a better Scientologist by teaching him about Catholicism. And so I said, well, John, did she teach you how to be, or did you teach her how to be a better Catholic by teaching her about Scientology? You're not making any sense. And also, this doesn't comport. But John Mappin claims to be a Christian Scientologist. This is a thing that they are trying to push. And to me, it's a relativism, whataboutism, if you want to call it, you know, one religion, whatever you want to call it, I don't care, but they are trying to blur the lines. And he didn't have an answer for me. He actually ended up deleting the post. But when I started looking into her, and you see the story, and John is so pivotal to her and George's meeting, she's changed that story recently. I won't take credit for it, even though some people have given me that credit. It was John that introduced them when they set up with Charlie, the TP UK. They had that original dinner. It was at the Royal Automobile Club, which is it's a Masonic lodge, historically speaking. It's a pretty shady place. It's tied to the royal family, as is John himself. Now, obviously, people know that George is, you know, heir for lack of a better term. He'll be going into the House of Lords due to his father. He'll be going into the peerage, and that is a lifetime, commitment. It's odd to me that in the retelling, she paints it as she has this pull, she goes, she looks at George, and she says, I immediately feel at home. That's it. I feel it, and I need to go to the UK. And it almost sounds like everyone's dream love story if you're not married, right? You look at someone, it's love at first sight, and that's what everybody wants. George tells a very different story, and that's what's very odd to me, because he's continued to tell a very different story. He said that there was nothing romantic between them at all. They had met at that meeting, and they communicated via email, chat, FaceTime. And within, I think they say it's like 17 or 18 days, he just calls her up one day and says, hey, do you want to get married? And to me, this speaks to an arranged marriage type of situation, possibly a handler type of situation. And, in regards to the Catholicism angle and the stuff with George, I try to remind people, firstly, you should stop calling her Candace Owens. She's married. Call her by what they would call her over there, which would be the Honorable Candace Farmer, because George is the Honorable George Farmer. She's married into that family for life. Her loyalties do not lie with the United States. I think that that's very clear. And while I think that politics are fake and gay, I have a deep respect for my veterans. As an ICU nurse, I deal with a lot of Vietnam vets, and they are very near and dear to my heart. And so, while there are questions and conversations to be had about, the military pharma industrial complex and the shady things that the military has been involved in research wise, it's not just like everything is all bad or all good. It's the same thing with anything else, including the military. But she doesn't have loyalties here. She can pack up and she can go home with Georgie and go stay with dad, do whatever, go hang out with John Mappin in his Camelot castle that he uses as a Scientology recruiting front when it's not operating as a hotel. And I'm sorry, I'm of the belief that, and Charlie, I can't prove it one way or the other, and he's dead. What does it really matter? Even though John said it himself that, that Charlie embraced Scientology. I've always thought this, because Scientology doesn't put their money into something that they don't endorse. And that goes both ways. It's both hands are greasing palms at that point. And when you study these networks long enough, I'm not pulling this out of thin air. But she has this relationship, and when I started to see the fractions in that retelling, I said, okay, it seems like a simple lie, maybe an odd lie, but George is pretty consistent about it not being romantic, and that felt weird to me. So then I started to look at the history of her growing up, and like you had said, uncles that were felons, I think that they had done prison time, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
And that
just real quick, she stated on oh god, I'll think of a show in a second. But anyways, she stated on a show that 5, I believe, out of her 8 or 9 uncles did prison time. So that's where I got that. We were talking about that a little bit prior to the show.
Yeah, so I haven't found any evidence for this. I'm going to have to presume that it is on the mom side, because, with mom, we hit a wall. I know who mom is. I have photos of her. I know where she is. But again, I'm not trying to dox people unnecessarily, and I'm also not trying to air out dirty information. But when you look at the varying retellings of her past, she's changed her story so many times. Now, I don't know if it would be okay for me to try and share a screen, because I've highlighted from a couple of old articles, just to show you guys without going through all of them, where I'm going to show the one article that's accurate to her father's resume, because her father's resume is where the smoke is. But I don't know if it'll let me.
It should be share pictures, videos, screen. tab right there.
Let's see. Let me pull up the window. I've never done this on a as a guest. I apologize, guys. And also there's going to be another interesting point, but let me pull this up first. Let's see if I can get this to work, because if not, I don't want to drive your people nuts. All right, here we go. So, okay, so hopefully you guys can see this okay. I know it's probably a little bit small. I have no interest in reading the entire thing, but everybody knows about her shit lib, excuse my language, social autopsy thing. And I didn't want to focus on that. I was like, okay, that's clearly common knowledge. And so I was trying to find any family chiming in, anything like that. So this is from the Herald Media. This is from October 19th, 2018, talking about this sort of transition at this time and her family's reaction to it. And right here it says, Owens grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, the middle child of 3 girls. Her father was a property manager and her mother an executive assistant. Even as a toddler, Owens didn't back down in a debate, her dad, Robert Owens Jr., said. And it says right here, the family grew up in poverty, she claims, living in a small apartment before moving into the home of her grandfather, who laid out tobacco to dry on a sharecropping farm at the age of 5 and faced the Ku Klux Klan. That all tracks as far as, what she says in regards to her grandfather. I have not found anything to the contrary in regards to his retelling. Everything that I have found about him, it is correct that, that he did buy that property. He seemed like a family man and that he did help take care of. I don't know to what extent, but in another article, because I just want to show that she changes the story so many times and nobody really holds her feet to the fire. And it's very frustrating to me because I feel like she's ashamed of her father, and I'm not claiming to know like the ins and outs of her family life, but I don't think that her coming from a poor Black family makes her somehow a more credible conservative. So this is from Black Past. I pulled this from the way back. This is from April 13th of 2019. Again, super quick. My main thing here, born in White Plains, New York, but grew up in Stamford, raised mainly by her mother, her parents being divorced. Upon graduating from Stanford, she attended the University of Rhode Island, but left after her junior year. And, there's a lot of discrepancies in regards to her actually graduating and getting that degree. They seem to not be able to keep their story straight on that either. I mean, that's just one part of it. In regards to her father's divorce, her parents' divorce, I'm sorry, I should say, that's just a blatant lie. And it's a stupid lie because, and again, people have come at me about this as well in regards to, well, why don't you just prove her wrong? Why don't you prove her wrong? Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I'm sorry, but she is a damn fool if she thinks that she is going to come out here and make crazy claims and nobody is going to look into her past, because her parents, I have the full record right here. Her parents were divorced when she was almost 30 years old. It's a really stupid lie, Candace. And again, it makes me feel personally, after spending so much time looking at this, that you're ashamed of your family. And I don't really know why, because your family was very supportive of you. I mean, her grandfather only really clapped back at her one time that I could find. So this is from the state of Connecticut Judicial Branch, the Superior Court case lookup. This is from 2016. 2016. Filed 2016, returned 2016. Family, dissolution of marriage, Stanford, right there, uncontested dissolution. There's her mother, Evelyn Davis Owens. These are not their current addresses. I'm not doxing anybody. This paperwork is old as hell. Robert Owens, right there. It's plain as day. That's it. Nothing else is pending on this. As of November 28th, 2025, because that's how long I've had this information. Why is she giving any? Go ahead.
No, real quick, Dan, I just want to clear up two things. Number one, I've heard that her mother's maiden name and her original name was Rose. Her last name was Rose. Can you confirm or deny that?
I don't know anything with Rose because we see Evelyn V. Davis or V. Davis Owens. I think that V is the maiden name.
Gotcha. Okay.
I don't think that it's the Davis because in one article, Candace says after the incident where they filed that lawsuit against the Stanford Board of Education that she used her mother's maiden name when she was going to university to try to hide from people. But there's no record of this.
Gotcha. And the only place that I've seen that mentioned is there is a interview with Candace's cousin who says that her last name was Rose and that Candace's last name was Rose. I'll try to post a link to that. If there's anybody over in the chat that has a link to that video, you can go check that out. It's an interview with Candace's cousin, and they're talking about Candace specifically. I think it was several years ago for sure. Anyways, that's just interesting.
Because I would love to see it because I did dad's side of the family tree and I wasn't able to do mom's. And I honestly think that part of it was just because I had gotten burnt out on the whole thing because, so we have grandpa Robert Owens and then we have dad who's Robert Owens. And that's where things get really muddy. But that's a big discrepancy. That's not even a little lie with that divorce record right there. That's a huge lie. Why would you lie about that? I'm not even saying that you guys were all living in the same house together, but why would you lie like that? And this is the same thing that you see over and over when she's retelling her family's past. Because again, I'm not going to sit here and go through the articles because I pulled every single article from 2018 and from the time of that Stanford Board of Education lawsuit to see if any of the stories had changed. She says that her dad wasn't in her life, but her dad filed the lawsuit on her behalf. It says in those legal documents, this is Robert Owens filing on behalf of his minor daughter with that Stanford Board of Education lawsuit. It's just strange to me. And the thing with the lawsuit, which is because initially I was like, maybe dad isn't in her life. Maybe it's grandpa, but okay, these documents say it's dad. So I'm going to operate under the assumption that it's dad. And then I finally find her father. Her mom, from what I have found, and I could be wrong, there's not much there. There's not a lot to find. It's the dad's side of the family that she doesn't want people looking at. One of the things that she does not want people looking at, in my opinion, from my research, is that her aunt, so it's her aunt, I think it's Vanessa. I'm going to pull up the family tree that I made so I can show you guys. Her aunt goes to Arizona, and then her dad goes to Arizona, and then grandpa goes to Arizona. They all go to Arizona.
Fort Huachuca. We found the nexus, folks.
Yeah. I have a question of, did the France V's have a relationship with the Owens family separate from Kirk? Because I have Candace's family in Arizona before any of this, including her dad at Blexit events in Arizona with Officer Tatum. So none of that makes sense to me at all. Again, this is just a huge name game thing. And again, I don't understand why she's lying to her audience because, in my opinion, it is a lie. It's a blatant sin of omission. But let me go ahead and pull up just the family tree because I feel like this is going to be the easiest way. It's a big tree. That way everybody can see it. And
now, when does Candace claim that her parents got divorced?
So I've seen varying, so she never gives the year, but the ages vary between 9 and 12.
Gotcha. Okay. And
that's
then
when she says.
It's her mom's parents that she goes and lives with later on when she claims to go live with them at 14, correct?
No, that's dad's parents.
Okay, that's dad's parents. All right, got it.
Yeah, so that's her grandfather on her dad's side. So that's Robert Owens' I'm going to pull this up because she actually shared a tweet. And so this was why I didn't really feel any type of way about going into this, because we have both of her sisters being interviewed in varying reports over the years. So that's how I got their names. These people put themselves out here. So did Dad. And then she posted this photo of her grandfather. So it's not really on me. The impetus isn't on me. If she didn't want people to know who her family was, then that's fine. But this is her grandfather, and this is a tweet from October 12th of 2018. Happy birthday to the greatest man alive. I owe my spirit, my work ethic, and my Owens temper to you, Granddaddy, talking about the KKK coming to their house and shooting bullets. And he said that his dad used to grab the rifle and shoot back at them boys, never a victim. I love you. So it seems to me that, I mean, if I'm just going to say it, she uses her grandfather to evoke that sort of, I don't know, non-victim mentality. And she pretends that her parents, that her father in particular, was not really in her life. And again, there's no evidence to support that. And again, I would love to clear up as well, because this is a fight that I've had with people on the internet, and you have a much bigger audience, so I'll be able to show. But her father walked her down the aisle at the wedding. He was at the wedding. George looks extremely uncomfortable, which is, I mean, unfortunate, I guess. George should get a better poker face, but he probably knew that the Queen was going to have something negative to say. All right, this is my full unredacted map. And this is just going to...
One lie real quick that I just want to establish that we've all heard Candace say for a long time, when she became a conservative, she claimed that there was no racism in America. And there's elements of that I agree with. There's definitely racism in America. But then at the same time, she's talking about this issue with the KKK. And then she has a lawsuit that she levied against her school for racism. So these things can't be true. Like, those are incongruent thoughts.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Well, there are rumors, so I will say allegedly. I have been told, but I have not seen proof, that that lawsuit was actually because she was trying to step in on someone else's boyfriend, and
I've heard
that girl got mad. So I don't know if that's the actual root of that lawsuit or not. You know, they did obviously win. They won almost $38,000. So I mean, I don't... Again, it's the conversations to be had about racism, but then, you know, she wants to sit there and say that that's not a thing, it's not a problem, when it's convenient for her. She operates under the mode of things being convenient. So just to show you guys like how far I went with this, and I'm going to make this bigger so that everyone can see, going all the way from down here.
Real quick, I want to pause this so we don't lose track, and I just want to hit some of these super chats real fast.
Oh, yeah.
We can get in. No, you can put it back up. Throw that back up there. I'll put it back up. That's fine. Madman 26 says, I've warned people about the leftist grifter since she showed up on the scene. People say, what the fuck happened to Candace? I want to shake them like a rag doll. You weren't listening 10 years ago. Great show, Gary. Thank you very much. Ruger Rouge, thank you very much. We appreciate you, Ruger. I always appreciate you in the comments and on X. I like Charlie and pray for his family, but Charlie didn't have that much power. She's completely evil. There's a lot of elements that I agree with. Charlie was powerful in some ways, and then some of the things that they attribute to him or his ability and influence, like, it's not true, or at least that's my take on that. So what we have is just kind of like what we're talking about, this race thing, is people saying what's convenient when you have someone that isn't around to defend themselves, and they're hijacking everything he stood for. They're telling you not to vote, which is the exact opposite of what Charlie would ever say. Like, that was his entire purpose, like, regardless. And he was even willing to compromise, as we all should be. It's like, hey, the discussions, the debates, the mudslinging happens in the primaries, and then when it comes down to it, we need to solidify and make sure that we understand what's at stake. The difference between a Donald Trump presidency or a Kamala Harris presidency, the stakes couldn't be bigger. All right, back to you. Let me throw this back up there.
All right, so let's let me pull it up on my side. Sorry. All right, there we go. So Obviously, those are Candace, and I like to call him Farmy, and he's hanging out with the pool boy. You can't convince me otherwise, but there's Candace and Farmy, okay? And then that is her sister, Brittany Davis Owens, and then her other sister, Ashley Davis Mistel, Gavin Mistel, and I'm pretty sure that his name is Dante, but I have not 100% confirmed that. Now,
Who's
this
Dante?
is a
Wait, who's Dante? Is that her
so
husband?
this would be Brittany's husband, correct?
Gotcha.
Yeah, this would
Now,
be
I just
Brittany's
wanna say,
husband.
do you have 4 producers, and did you take a week off to make this link chart? Because your link chart is 10 times better than anything I've seen with Candace
No.
Owens. I just
No,
wanna
I
let
did.
you know that.
I did. Thank you. I did this by myself.
You
So here, this is, and I'm going to show you guys from some of the Instagrams that I pulled from Dad, but I do believe that this is a yearbook photo of Candace's mother, but this is Evelyn Virginia Davis Owens. Again, I don't know if Virginia's a middle name, but it's always Evelyn V. Davis or, Evelyn Virginia Davis Owens. And then here is Dad, Robert Lee Owens Jr., and then his sister, I was wrong, it wasn't Victoria, it was Veronica. So Veronica A. Owens Spears Cobb. She is the first one that I found that came to Arizona. And then there is their brother, Ronley Owens. So I did all of that. And now that is actually her grandpa. I found a really young photo of him. And so there he is, Robert Lee Owens Sr., and there is Grandma Nola Alexis Van Holten Blyden Owens. It's a mouthful. Whew. And if we go up here, then we see Robert Lee Owens' dad, who was Dallas Lee Owens, and he was married to one Luressa Crawford Owens, and then Margaret Wells. And if we move over here, this is when the tree starts getting really big, because if you know anything about the Blydens in the Caribbean specifically, this gets very complicated. So we have right here, I tried to do these by color the best that I could. So all children born from Estella Henley Blyden match this red right here, okay? And then we have Abraham Blyden. But you'll see over here that we have one off, which is a Henrietta Blyden, and we only have 2 red arrows over here going to an Alfredo and an Esther. Unfortunately, and guys, until I have paperwork that can prove otherwise, and I don't know how I would get it, from what I have found, Henrietta and Abraham were related. Okay, so I don't know what to tell anybody. They didn't get married, and they were very young when they had Alfredo and Esther. So make of that what you will. I'm not passing judgment either way, but we actually have her grandfather, Candace's grandfather, Robert Lee Owens. He talks about right here. So Pastor Roy Emmanuel Blyden, he was a global preacher, and her grandfather actually talks about this in discussing, how he didn't raise Candace this way, and his family comes from all over the world, and this is true. So I have, if I don't have a photo of the individual, then I just have their name in black and then their spouses. And many of these individuals have died, but here is Edward W. Blyden IV. There is his wife, Victorine Italia Blyden. We have Luna Elisa Van Holten Nibs Fret. She is still alive. Gwendolyn is the wife of Pastor Roy. And then we have some others down here that I do not have the names for. But this is her full family tree on her father's side. I know who these people are. I know where Gavin works. I know where Brittany works. I know where Ashley works. I know where Mom works. I also know where Dad works, obviously the aunt as well, and I also know where Ronell works. But I worked really hard on this to show that the information is out there. It's not a secret. It just takes a lot in order to be able to find it. It's been very frustrating to me. Now, everybody has family, right? And there's some fertile myrtles. They're pumping out babies, and God bless. I'm like, I don't even know this many people. Like, I love this for them that they have such a big family. I think that that's fantastic. However, This is where I'm not taking you guys on the journey that I went on, and I'm watering it down for your sanity and mine. So, that Stanford Board of Education lawsuit, they used a lawyer by the name of Norman Pattis. Some of you may be familiar with Norman Pattis. Norman Pattis has represented 3 of the Proud Boys, including Owen Schreier. He also represented the Soccer Mom Madam, the Manhattan Madam, and I know I'm missing some other really sus characters. He's a very, very, very shady attorney. He also represented Alex Jones in his Sandy Hook defamation lawsuit not that long ago. So it's kind of odd that they have the same lawyer, but I might be making a really crazy stretch, right? Might be making a really crazy stretch. Well, maybe I can change your mind on that. Let me pull up her father's resume, because as of today, and I will say that this is very likely because of this show, because it wasn't gone before. But when you look on her father's resume, because I did find it, because remember, everybody goes to Arizona, right? They're all going to Arizona. So I find Dad, I get it all nailed down, and I know that I have the right guy. I'm going to pull up her dad's resume, and you guys can tell me if you think that this might be why she's not telling anybody. And I'll show the screenshot where this is no longer available. I don't know what this website is. I think it's just like a professional website where, you know, they will hook you up like LinkedIn, but something fancier. So Robert L. Owens Jr., Phoenix. Okay, so a brief summary of his work. Remember that one article, it called him a property manager, right? So 23 years of professional experience, 1 certification. Now, here's one discrepancy or refutation that somebody had brought up to me. Why would someone working in a position that he did previously go into something like a closing specialist with Quicken Loans or Rocket Mortgage? I said, well, it could be because of some of his arrests, which I do not feel are relevant. They are not violent or white-collar crimes, and they are not sexual crimes. So I don't care. Life is complicated. It's not relevant to the story, and I'm not going to contact the guy. But we have right here title coordinator for Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. But there we have property manager, commercial and residential for Valley Income Properties. That was the email that I was able to use for him to find this. And right here specifically, he is overseeing Grand Canyon University, managing their space. Right here, he is the residential manager for Nelson Brothers Property Management. This is in the year of 2017. And then we have him being an assistant property and leasing manager for Greystar Properties in July of 2014 to January of 2017. But the one that I'm about to show you is, in my opinion, the one that they don't want people to look at. And this is Regional Property Manager Commercial for Bright Horizons Family Solutions from August of 2011 to July of 2013. Commercial real estate daycare centers, 4,000 square feet each, manage 45 daycare centers in Connecticut and New York. Blah, 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 blah. In charge of contracts, janitorial, snow removal, landscaping, fire alarm systems, and security during tragic loss of life at Sandy Hook. I think that this is stuff that people might want to know, that the public might want to know about this, especially given the fact that they have the same lawyer as Alex Jones. But this is what he says, and his older jobs prior to this, Mutual Housing Association, property manager, you know, this matches what he had put into that original interview where he's discussing being a property manager and her mother an executive assistant. But this whole, you know, during tragic loss of life at Sandy Hook, in charge of contracts, Bright Horizons Family Solutions. So Bright Horizons Family Solutions is a FEMA contractor. For those who do or do not know, you know, she wants to sit here and give Erika or, you know, the France V's shit for, you know, relations, whether it's work-wise, whatever, with, you know, the DuPonts, and again, with the
Government contract.
Bidens. Yeah, well, with the Blydens, I've found connections with Pfizer going all the way into the 2010s, but like members of the Blydens working for Pfizer for a long time. Bright Horizons Family Solutions literally runs daycare centers for DuPont, Johnson and Johnson, the United Nations. Like, it sounds like Candace's family is just as plugged in, if not more, than Erika's, quite frankly. And
Yeah.
I don't see why people don't clap back at her on this. It's very frustrating to me because she has lied to you about where she comes from. And again, I'm not going to sit here and waste everybody's time reading through old articles. I have 3 videos that are very long on my channel about this. Her grandpa saying that she was raised in a white neighborhood. It was a nice neighborhood. She didn't struggle for nothing. She doesn't know what it, she tries to make herself relatable to normal people. And when I'm talking about normal people, I'm talking about most of us who are struggling to pay the bills, who are struggling to put food on the table. She wants to sit there and act like she's the same as y'all. She's not. I'm sorry. And this whole lawsuit thing seemed to be the impetus for her trying to make her way into becoming a household name in one way or the other. Norman Pattis, I get lawyers are paid to do a job. That's fine. He's represented some really nasty people. He worked directly under Jerry Spence of Karen Silkwood fame. There's a lot of weird people that he's involved with specifically. And the fact that her own father states that he was in charge of contracts during whatever happened in Newtown that day, I'm not going to sit here and, argue with people about that. People have their feelings. But does anybody not think that Alex Jones and Candace's father have not sat down at the dinner table and had a conversation about what happened that day, since he would be sitting directly across from the man that was in charge of the contracts for what happened that day, including security? Because the contracts have been a huge sticking point within that research milieu, whether you want to call them conspiracy theorists or not. I think it's insulting to call them conspiracy theorists when we didn't see what happened with our own eyes, like with what happened to Charlie, and people ask questions, but we didn't see what happened that day, only the aftermath. It seems like Candace has been very plugged in. And again, the stuff with her father not really being present in her life, there's just nothing to factually support that. And I'm just going to go through, if it's okay, because I don't want to go too long. But I have his I pulled a bunch of Instagram photos from him. That way you guys could see. Some of these are older. Many of them you guys probably have not seen. He looks like a proud boomer dad. Do I think her dad is absolutely sus? Yes. But at the end of the day, he looks like a very proud boomer dad. And I think it's really sweet. It seems like he's very proud of his daughters. And I think it's really gross that Candace kind of pretends that like he wasn't in her life. So this was from, I think, this year or last year, but this is his page, wishing her a happy birthday. And there they are. That's him. That's him at the wedding. Okay. People say that there's a Daily Mirror article that cites that this guy's name is Mark or Mark Lane, some sergeant from Ohio. No, this is her father. Her father was at her wedding. And this is her sister's wedding with her grandfather. And I don't know what woman this is. I'm very, very curious, but I went ahead and kept the photo anyway until I definitively identify who mom is. And here we are again. This is dad, sister, Candace, Georgie, sister, brother-in-law, brother-in-law. Okay, let's continue. There's another very sweet photo. Grandpa, sisters, Candace. And this is Grandma Nola Owens and her sister. We saw that on the map that I made of her family, Luna Nibs. And there's dad again. Told you, typical boomer dad. Just got pedicure and eyebrows, getting ready to go out for his birthday. There's his dad and his sister in 1981.
Dana,
And
real quick, what do you think is why do you think she's kind of hiding her father? Like what's going on with him that she doesn't want him to be publicly seen?
I think because of his work history.
just because he was attached to Sandy Hook.
I think because of his work history, because I mean, with how vague that is,
Right.
and the fact that what I have found of mom's employment, mom seems to have a relatively, typical, I would say, middle class job, career. But with dad, that begs the question of how did he get into a job like that? And if this is the Blyden family, the Blyden dynasty, if that's where that comes from, then this is a very, very, very powerful family, a very powerful family. And this also begs into question, one of John Mappin's best friends, who is a high-ranking former military official under Papa Doc Papa Doc Duvalier, where they were using voodoo out in the field during war in Haiti. He's best friends with the son of that high-ranking official who brags about using black magic on people. There's a lot of reasons, in my opinion, if you were going to do that. Here he is, my two oldest sisters or oldest daughters in St. John. This was from 2021. There's no question that that's dad and that's Candace. Okay, like this isn't up for debate. They look very young. Do I know how old she is? No, I don't know. And here is his nephew, Randall, and he's talking about working at Quicken Loans. They are a family. Her dad walked her down the aisle, but you see what I mean about George's face? He looks like the queen was going to slap him on the hand for getting too close to the help. I'm sorry. Somebody has to say it.
Like mortified. That's pretty funny.
He looks mortified. He looks absolutely mortified. And again, here's dad. Happy birthday.
Be as charitable as possible. Maybe they just caught him in the middle of I don't know. We've all taken some weird pictures before.
Well, he has that face anytime it's with her family. I'm just saying, I've looked at all of these photos, but like here's his other daughter's wedding. Here's Ashley's wedding, and there's Candace, there's her other sister. These, Right Tech class reunion, the photo that he uses of who I think is mom, it lists Right Tech. There are the sisters again, 2017. And this is when he comes to Arizona in 2013. And here he is at a Blexit event wearing one of the hats that were given out at Candace's wedding that says "Make Weddings Great Again." I think it's hilarious that he wore that to a Blexit event. And here he is with Officer Tatum in 2021, dad and him. So it's not a secret that these people are close and that they know each other. And this I just grabbed to bolster my argument as far as who he was following. Nelson Partners was on that resume. She has two sisters. I don't know how many nieces or nephews she has. This is one of the missing siblings. He says that this is Lonzel, hasn't seen him since he's 8 years old. I don't know if they have the same mother.
When you say missing siblings, this is allegedly Candace's brother?
Allegedly Candace's brother.
And we don't know where he's at?
Don't know where he's at.
He could be Candace.
I don't know. Let me pull up this last one because this other
with the whole thing that she had going with on the Macrones, and now we have a sibling of Candace's that is missing.
Well, then this other person says that he is her brother as well, and she has not refuted it. And I can't really find anything about this guy, partly because his name is too common. But some of you guys may know him. He has a pretty big YouTube following. So the Modern Renaissance Man, he says, someone had to rat me out. Candace Owens is my sister, and I'm her crazy big brother. Thanks for inviting me out, little sis. This is from October of 2020. So we have two brothers that are out in the wild, and I don't know who they are. No clue.
Yeah, just for argument's sake, could that just be him talking in jest?
It could be, for sure. I've certainly thought that, but it's an odd thing to say. And with dad having that photo of Lonzel, I tried to flesh out that timeline too of, 8 years old versus when Renaissance Man was born, and it just seems that there is some other siblings that are in the picture, and it appears from the official records that I do have that Candace's parents got married after she was born. I'm not judging anybody. Life is
Sure.
complicated. Again, people think that things should be black and white, and whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. But I thought initially, I was like, well, could that be a divorce record? Because I don't have a divorce record. But then once I found it, it was no, her parents were married technically after Candace's date of birth. And so this might explain the name game with using Owens versus Davis versus that one that you mentioned, the Rosea or Rosie.
Rose, Rozay. I'll show you a quick clip from that video, and then I'll send it to you to make sure you can check out that video. Let me hit just a couple of super chats real quick. Sean Faulkner, I believe the problem is that in today's listening audience, a very unsubstantiated insinuation is not a lie, but instead of a fact. This could be a problem in general with our current culture. I talked about this the other day and brought it up multiple times. I think this is just one of the elements of moral relativism moving into just relativism with everything. And it's like we now have a society that doesn't believe in objective facts. And so anything can be true. And if we just entertain it, it could be our truth. It doesn't have to be your truth. And I think that is very pervasive in our society. And that's where some of the lack of logic and reason that we've seemed to have abandoned has gone. I think that kind of colors everything that we talk about today. And there is, all facts are relative. That's what it comes down to. Jeanette Garibian, who we just had on the other day. Hi, Gary. I heard your guest say that it's not true that Candace left home at age 14. Can you ask her what evidence we have that she lied about this on the Russell Brand podcast 7 years ago? That's the name I was trying to think of earlier when I was having a brain fart, Russell Brand. Yeah, so that's what she did state on the Russell Brand. You said that you didn't think that was true. What evidence do you have to support that?
I don't see anything in the census records for where the parents are living. Again, I don't know if, hey, teens run away and do stupid teenage stuff. Their frontal lobe isn't fully developed, right? But, her parents, again, they didn't get divorced until she was almost 30. Obviously, she had moved out by that time, but in a couple of those photos, and I can't assume, she looks young. I don't know how young she is, but I'm not going to take Candace's word for anything when she's lied about everything else. So I don't care. Respectfully, I don't care that she told Russell Brand that she ran away or didn't live there. I don't care if she told somebody else that she grew up poor. I don't see any evidence for that. And when her grandfather says, I taught her better than that, I raised her better than that, we grew up in a nice white neighborhood, she knows better, I'm going to take grandpa's percentage with a bit more value, a bit more weight than her.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's fair to say that, especially at this point in time, you can't take her at her word. I think that is definitely fair to say. Candace did not live with her parents from 14 to 16. And Jeanette, I assume that you're basing that on, because I know we watched some of those shows the other night, that's based on what she's stating. I think obviously Dana's position is, well, we don't have any evidence of that one way or the other. And she's taken her word as a grain of salt. So,
well, and the dad filed the lawsuit when she was 17, right? So even if Candace didn't live there for 2 years, what difference does that make? That's almost, I feel like, playing devil's advocate for a moment, that I would be acting like Candace, going, where are the missing years of Candace? How she does with Erika, the missing years. Like, is that time period that relevant necessarily? Doesn't really seem to be. It doesn't really seem to pan out in the big picture that it matters. And again, she's lied about so many things that I've proven factually with documentation, with census records from her family, voter registrations. I have where her aunt works, where her mom lives, where her sister works. But again, I'm not trying to dox people. It's, why am I going to take her word for it? And what relevance does that hold if she moved away for 2 years? Because she sure as shit was living with her parents when they filed that lawsuit and won all that money.
Or at least the court documents would suggest that. And we know court
Yeah.
documents can't be wrong because they're notarized. Yeah, no, I think those are fair. Yes, he does look just like Candace. Jody 68801, thank you very much. Akhenaten, Akon is her brother. He is in Connecticut. Have you heard of Akon, her brother in Connecticut? I assume we're not talking about the same as the performer, Akon. That's the first time I've heard that name. We'll play, see if we can get any information. I'm gonna play the whole thing because it's pretty long, but I want to play the interview with her cousin where she does give some information, and wish I had timestamps to the relevant. I didn't know we were going to go through that. But anyways, Gary, you should read the post today by Elizabeth Lane about Candace and her detractors. I will be responding to Elizabeth in a little while. Stay tuned. And Candace has already gone after Blake Neff with a sarcastic response. I haven't seen Blake Neff's. I know people have mentioned it. Maybe we'll pull that up in just a second as well. Let's share this tab instead so we can share the response or the tweet from Elizabeth Lane today, and pull this down so you guys can see it. And 2 hours ago, Candace is slowly assembling the case the FBI should have put together after Charlie was killed. I would say that Candace is about as much of an investigator as Elizabeth Lane is a psychologist, but I digress. Along the way, she's been mocked, attacked, and sued, and relentlessly smeared. But that's always how it goes. First, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. I don't think that's going to be the outcome. People across the country and far beyond are sending in clues. Yeah, they are. They are all in this, connecting dots, sharing information. The story isn't fading into obscurity. This will not be another Kennedy case. Mark my words. Charlie's case will be solved one way or the other. It will be solved because there's copious amounts of evidence, forensic evidence, testimonial evidence, confessions, among other things. And to those responsible, run while you can, bitches. If the FBI won't deliver justice, the American people will, and they won't stop until the truth is dragged into the light. Very performative tweet by Elizabeth Lane. Just magical at its core. I love it. And again, we have so much evidence that you just can't dismiss. And if you do, I think it's so silly. Like, you got to, number one, like, one of the things, again, I don't know how much you've been paying attention to the elements of this case, Dana, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. If you're going to tell me that Tyler Robinson didn't do that, in spite of all the evidence that we have, the confessions on multiple platforms, multiple mediums, the DNA evidence, the forensic evidence, we're going to have cell phone location data, and so much more that we're not even aware of. If you're going to say that that's not true and just dismiss that outright, then you got to give me an alternative to believe. What I've never heard from Candace, I've heard bits and pieces that, like, who actually shot Charlie if it wasn't the person on the roof? Are we going with the exploding mic, the palm gun? Both of those keep resurfacing. I just saw somebody, a fairly big account, pushing the palm gun theory again. It was Dances with Wolves and Finances. He's pushing that. And then we have her other surrogate, Baron Coleman, who's pushing the exploding mic theory, which I'll just be honest with you, I think it's the most ridiculous, dumb, and defies physics, period. All right. We can get into that, and I probably need to do a more in-depth debunking of that. And the other thing I want to get on is an explosive expert. I've worked with explosives my whole career in special operations. I can tell you what we saw there was an explosion. And the other thing I just recently thought of, and I know I'm getting off track a little bit with my squirrel brain, one of the things that we don't have that no one's brought up that I've seen so far is we don't have a sound signature that would indicate the source of a sound coming from Charlie himself. That is one thing that is not recorded or mentioned or discussed, and we would have a sound signature, obviously. If we had something exploding underneath his shirt, it would leave burn marks. It would leave a radial debris. Anyways, so there's that. But the point here is we've yet to see an alternative explanation to explain what's going on with the Charlie Kirk assassination. If Tyler Robinson didn't kill them, who did? And how did they do it? And then give me some evidence that supports all the above. What's your thoughts on that, Dana?
I think that, regardless of what questions, because I haven't followed it closely, but if I'm of if I'm saying that I'm out here trying to vindicate my deceased friend, I'm going to be working night and day to exonerate the person that I think is falsely accused with evidence, facts, something. It's why aren't you focusing on what's going on within the walls of the courthouse, going on with, these motions that are being filed? I know I saw that you had Andrea Burkhardt on, and I really liked the cut of her jib. I think that she's really intelligent and she's
I really
pretty
like the cut of her
objective.
jib as well.
Yeah, she's really objective and which is hard, especially coming from a female, where she's just like, okay, here are the options and here's what I think is most likely, but we don't know. And it's why aren't they using their huge platforms, these friends, with friends like that who needs enemies, to sort of root this out if that's really what you're after? I think that they're taking everybody on a ride, and I believe that they're going to continue to take everybody on a ride because it's profitable too. It's a way to make money, and it's easy to sit here and go on this sort of morality campaign. But Erica talks out of two, or not Erica, not Charlie. See, I'm getting tired now. Candace talks out of two sides of her mouth because, it's, well, I'm just asking questions. But then if you clap back at her, she's a demon and she's under attack. And it's like, some of us out here don't trust any of you. We think the whole thing is shady. And we're just looking at it objectively. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to give Candace weight on anything when I've just shown you guys. And somebody asked a fair question in the chat, did you find a marriage record or was it a common law marriage? I have the marriage record of when Candace's parents got married. I know when they got married. I have it. Okay. This isn't me pulling stuff out of whole cloth. I really tried to go through this with a fine tooth comb because I knew that it was going to be unpopular. I'm just bringing it here now, thanks to you, 3 months later, because they tried to, report my channel and get the videos removed, and people refuting me with Grok, even though Grok ended up agreeing with me in a backhanded way, saying that it was Candace's grandfather's company that did the security contracts. And I'm like, no, don't do that. But this is a name game, the robot's playing into the name game. And again, I'm not going to act like Candace does, where I focus on this little piece of time that in the grand scheme of things isn't changing anything, but I'm going to pretend that this missing piece of time that I know I can't prove, that holds the answers to where we're at now. I think it just shows the level of disingenuousness that she's operating from. No one that cares about what happened to their friend and the fact that their very young friend, because Charlie was younger than me, I consider him a kid. It's like, God, I was a mess when I was 31. He was rubbing shoulders with some of the most powerful people in the world. Whether you like him or not, you give credit where it's due, and he was talented. The way that his life was taken, and the fact that he has children that don't have their father, you're not being a friend. I'm sorry. And I think we should ask questions, but you're not being a friend and you're not doing it in good faith. So stop lying about that part.
No, and to reinforce that, going back to how disingenuous, dishonest, and quite frankly, it's just a logical fallacy. When Candace says Tyler Robinson never stepped foot on UVU, but then she also says I do think he could have been involved somehow. But if that's the case, he could have been involved somehow. Why have you never investigated him at all? And as a matter of fact, you spent a lot of time trying to prove that he's innocent. And I don't understand that. So was he involved somehow? Because I think she's just throwing that out there to pander to some of the folks that do think he's involved. I think that Candace Owens doesn't believe anything she's saying at this point. I think she knows that Tyler Robinson, and by the way, I also know this because of the information that she came back with after her meeting with Erika. After her meeting with Erika, Erika clearly shared with them some of the facts, shared with her some of the facts that she had, because as soon as she came back from that meeting with Erika, she confirmed everything that the official narrative has said. She's like, hey, I'm telling you folks, he was shot. He, the bullet did stop in his neck. It was a fragmenting round is what she said. She meant frangible. I don't know if it's frangible or not. Doesn't really matter. She went on to confirm a bunch of things that she was wrong about with Mikey McCoy and the call logs. She never retracted any of it, of course. But then because of a reaction in her comment section, she immediately flipped that, went completely 180 degrees from that. So clearly there was information shown. So my point is I don't believe that anything that Candace is saying. I don't believe that she believes it. I think she knows it's all BS. And I think she's just an opportunist that is spiteful, hateful, and evil and demonic, if we want to stick to the talking points there that people accuse others of. So anyways, speaking of which, Jody6880 says, I have her parents married November 3rd, 1993. Does that correlate with what or corroborate the information that you have as far as a marriage certificate?
Mine says November 5th, 1993.
Okay. Oh my God, there's a 2-day discrepancy.
Somebody alert the media.
Oh
Call the cops. Out of control. This is it. It's over. It's a wrap.
I told you guys. I told you Candace was shady. We have an official document.
This is how stupid it is.
It is. We have an official document, and then we have a statement on social media. Both are factually equivalent, just like tips in a inbox are pretty much gospel. Did you find a marriage license for Candace's parents? Could it have been a common law marriage? Could it be why they divorced in 2016?
No, I have the license. I have it goes under in Ancestry, especially with stuff I've found usually after 1972, because the census only updates every 25 years, but after the mid 1970s, they stopped putting in or scanning in the physical records. But I do have the actual registry because they do at least register the information. And it does show that Robert L. Owens Jr. married Evelyn V. Davis in Stamford on November 5th, 1993. So no, it was not a common law marriage. They got married and then they got divorced in 2016. Not when Candace was a little kid, like she keeps telling everybody.
Yeah. Fair enough. Jeanette says, not living with her parents from 14 to 16 kicked out. What difference does it make? It does make a big difference. It's called conduct disorder, which someone must have had before age 15 in order to be diagnosed with ASPD. I think, again, Jeanette, I think all she's saying is that we don't have any evidence of one way or the other. And I think the statement here is, and the belief is, we shouldn't take Candace at her word. Let me know if I'm mischaracterizing or clarifying your discussion on this particular point, Dana.
And I don't, I'm not a doctor, nor do I play one on TV. So I don't like making claims about, any sort of disorders or anything like that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you're
making that. Jeanette has made that claim because she is a behavioral therapist.
Okay.
So that's where this is coming, just so you understand. And she was laying out the other day from Candace's own words some of the things that can be attributed to her current mental state. That's where.
Okay, that's interesting.
And if you haven't watched that episode, if you go to we did the same thing as we're doing here. We made ourselves sit through the insanity, and then she kind of laid out some of the things that she's noticed that obviously, not being her patient, she's not something she would give as diagnosis or official diagnosis or anything crazy like that. But the point here is that she was pointing out some of her own statements that would indicate a certain diagnosis and behavioral disorders. That's where this is coming from. So you're clear and caught up on that.
That makes more sense.
I think, yes, there's a conspiracy, but it's those behind TR, not Erika, France, Israel, Egyptian planes. Is she doing a deep dive on Candace Owens? If you're asking, she's already, I don't know who you're asking that question to. Dana's already doing a deep dive on that. I think we've only scratched the surface. We've been going 3 hours, so I think we are going to kind of nip it in the bud there. I do want to hit a couple more points and show you a couple more videos. And then we will look at, there was another tweet we were going to look at. Oh, what was his name? Anyways, we're gonna look at another tweet as soon as I pull my head on my butt. I'm tired too. And I do want to show you guys this video real quick of Candace Owens' cousin. And we'll share this. And I will put this right up here. All right. So if you guys didn't see the link that I put down in the description, I'll throw it down there again. But it's Storm Monroe is the channel. And the title is Candace Owens' Real Name in Nature is Blasted by Her Own Cousin. We'll zip through this real quick. You guys can watch this on your own.
Disrespectful. And, so, you mess around here, comment, and you be like, you know what? I'm finna pull up. She got, I'm finna pull up because she got me messed up.
Nah, family's Black, you know what I mean? So she have been around Black people, but as far as on her daily base, like growing up on a daily basis in her life, she was around more white people, you know what I mean? She grew up in Connecticut, so all her friends was white. All the guys she ever dated. I don't think I ever known Candace to ever date a Black dude. Like her sisters, like her sisters that date Black dudes, things like that. But Candace, I never seen her with a Black dude, and people don't know either. Like I want to get the record straight, kind of with that too. Our grandfather is, if you look at him, he look like a white man. With that being said, we have pure white, like close cousins. So, we're probably more white than anything, to be honest with you. So I just really think she's probably identified. She always did identify, in that aspect. So, even since we were kids, I remember having conversations, things like that. Cause I always thought it was kind of weird, she would be a little white girl, you know what I mean? Things like that too. Okay. But she always been like that. Is she not fronting? She's not putting on. She's not putting on. She's not putting on for the camera. Candace was born like that. Candace was born a leader. Candace was born with a smart mouth. Candace was born being outspoken. Just all that. Everything you see on the internet, what she give you is literally who Candace is. So she really not fronting. Like maybe she be capped a little bit with some things, but for the most part, she's who she is.
She is who she is.
She is who she is. Yeah.
I like that. And I like to tell people this too, right? Instead of saying you don't like somebody because everybody tell you not to like them, why don't you go check their stuff out? Just saying, right. But I just think that we as Black people have to learn that we ain't all the same. You know what I'm saying? And so,
yeah, I agree. You know what I mean? She definitely is always been an outcast, in that aspect. It's like 20 first cousins. It's like 20 of us. And, and she definitely been the outcast out of all of us, how she approached life.
That's an interesting thing, especially for your own analysis, Jeanette. And, I think that's an interesting tidbit of information.
Who she is, her character and, things like that. So I will say that about her.
That's what's up. So you have good things to say about her, which is good. So let me ask you, she's a political commentator. Did you expect her to go that way, or was it kind of like a shock to the family?
Yeah, it was, all right, so it was a shock at first, but like literally now that I look at it, I'm like, oh shit, it kind of, excuse my language, but it kind of made sense. And in a sense, it made sense, like looking at her whole life. It kind of made sense the lane she in. But me personally, no, I was shocked. I always thought she might have been maybe like a famous actor or doing something in the music industry and things like that. Because Candace always been, she's been in the industry since she was like 17. Like she know a lot of people in the entertainment industry. You know what I mean? So honestly, a lot of people that talk mess about her is probably like her biggest fan, low key, before she got popping. You know what I mean? Things like that. But no, seriously, she I honestly thought she was going to be in the entertainment business. But then when the politics hit, I was like, it really threw me off and threw me for a loop. But then, like I said, now where I'm at in my life now and where we all at in our life now, it kind of makes sense, if that makes sense to you.
Okay.
Because like my aunt always made sure they was on the straight path. Candace never got in trouble her whole life. I don't even think Candace ever even bust a grape. Like, let's be honest. You know what I mean? She never got in a fight. You know what I mean? I mean, like, started a fight. Yeah, she got in a situation before, but like as far as like, I'm 3 weeks older than her. Our moms and another one of their sisters were all pregnant at the same time. So 4 of us was born at the same in the same year. Like I said, I'm 3 weeks older than Candace, and then we have a boy. I'm a twin, and then we have a boy cousin was born like 2-3 months after us. So growing up, everybody knew us as the '89 crew. You know what I mean? We all super close. Plenty of pictures. Teenage years, younger, and things like that. You know what I mean? Basically. Honestly, our whole family grew up really close. All our first cousins, we all grew up super, super close. But Candace always had to select who she dealt with, though. You know what I mean? And the '89 crew, we were definitely the ones, like, we're all close. So.
Okay, that's dope, though. But you know what? I will say this, because I'm
like that. But, as we get older, we have our differences and, things like that. I would say, like, probably the first argument me and Candace ever had was when we was like late 20s, you know what I mean? Throw up, things like that. But my cousin know I love her and nobody gonna ever touch her. I see a lot of these, famous people threaten her, things like that. On the market. So you kind of want to look for brands that specialize in organic things or, brands that.
All right. So somewhere in here, she definitely states that her name was Rose before she changed it to her father's name, Owens. Take that for what it is. You guys can watch the rest of this interview. And I do want to take a look real quick at Blake Neff's response to Candace Owens and this episode specifically. Let me see what he had to say. Go ahead.
Really quick. Because this happened to me, so I have a Patreon, and I initially, because of the Sandy Hook stuff, you know, I was very nervous about talking about any of it, just because, like, well, Alex Jones getting sued for $1 billion, right? But then he goes on Ozempic against a tanning bed, and nothing happens. But with all of that, people paid to get into my Patreon, stole the information and put it out onto 4chan before I represented it on YouTube. There's some people that I see like comments in the chat that like this information is not original from me. People can go to my Patreon or they can go to my YouTube, and you guys can see where this information was and where I pulled it from. I've already gone through all of this. And again, I have the receipts for it, but it was on my Patreon for like a week before I brought it over here. So I just wanted to address that because people are like, Gary, you're being set up. And it's, yeah, the 4chan thread. Yeah, they literally were using my screenshots. It's screenshots of newspapers with my highlight on them. But they had been they were stolen from my Patreon. That's exactly what I'm talking about, is the 4chan stuff. So you're not being set up. I'm just letting you know that these people, whatever. It's frustrating for someone that's small like me, that, you know, I don't even have 10,000 subscribers, that I spend time that I'm embarrassed to admit now trying to confirm that it was Candace's father with the name game. People buying to go onto my Patreon to take screenshots and record it and just dump it onto 4chan the night before I decide to come on YouTube and do that. So you're not being set up. It's 4chan pulling shit out of thin air. So just putting that out there.
I'm pretty sure I could be wrong. I'm gonna check that out and post that and or say that I was incorrect. But I did go through that and watch the whole thing. I'm pretty sure that's what she said, but I could be wrong. Maybe I misheard her. No, fair enough. Look, and at the end of the day, I don't know whether, like, I don't know how that's making me set up, even if, let's say, you took it off of 4chan from somebody else's. The question is this true or not? I think we had some initial documents, and I think this is fairly makes sense. I don't know how much evidence proof that we had in all this, but again, it's more evidence than I've seen in this episode, you talking about this, than what that's directly related to Candace versus what we've seen in 3 or 4 episodes now of the Erika Kirk nonsense. So take that for what it is. You guys can make, you know, your own decision on what's true, what's not. Do your own research, and go from there. And I am going to have her back on it. We're going to continue to go down and figure some things out. And, you know, we'll kind of, everybody was asking me for this. I didn't even want to get into this whole background of Candace Owens. Ultimately, I don't know how relevant it is, but if it's relevant to Erika, it doesn't matter what I think. If it's relevant to Erika and everybody thinks it is, then Candace's background is relevant as well. And that's kind of where I'm at with this. So, like, she's done the work. We're going to bring her on, and, you know, we can continue to explore some of this stuff. Some people will care about it. Some people won't. That's for you to decide. It is what it is. Blake Neff talked about, let me share this tab real quick and then make sure I'm actually showing you guys, because I'm not right now. Blake Neff responded to this particular episode. Said, I've avoided commenting on most of Candace Owens' claims the past few months. However, her latest episode contains such a blatant untruth about Charlie's daily life that I feel compelled to correct it. In this episode, Candace Owens aggressively ridicules Erika for using the phrase Shabbat Shalom and suggests that Charlie's last book, Stop in the Name of God, about the value of observing the Sabbath, is a fabrication to make Charlie appear more pro-Jewish and more pro-Israel than he really was. It's very revealing that Candace would fixate on this, as it immediately reveals unfamiliarity with Charlie's behavior for the entire period that I knew him. Charlie was observing his evangelical Christian version of Shabbat for the entire time I worked under him. As a Catholic who sees Sunday as the Christian Sabbath, I would tease Charlie about this, even in early 2023. Shortly after I joined the show, he was signing off his Friday shows with Shabbat Shalom. In fact, every week on Friday around 9 to 10 p.m., our last message from Charlie before he went dark for 24 to 36 hours was Shabbat Shalom in our Telegram chat. See below for truth. Charlie's love of Shabbat was completely genuine. To claim otherwise is a lie. And we can pull up these. Looks like that confirms what he's saying. The other thing, here's where this entire grift works for people and doesn't work for other people like me. I was following Charlie very closely for multiple years, probably at least since 2022. And then like I knew who he was prior to that. I just wasn't following him as closely. After that, I was watching all of his shows. I loved watching his debates at the college campuses. I was watching his podcasts. I was watching his content very regularly. I probably watched his content. I don't know. He was in the top 3 for sure of people that I followed and watched and enjoyed. And one of the things that, as someone that was also creating content, one of the things that I really appreciated what Charlie did, and not only did I kind of, his views represented mine, but on top of that, I was studying him for the way that he communicates. I will never be the communicator that Charlie is, but I was watching how he communicates and how he is able to change minds in the way that he does. So that was one of the reasons that I studied him, looked at him so closely. So when he was killed, it felt personal. It felt like somebody that I knew, that I was friends with, was murdered, and I wanted to find out. And just like Dana talked about earlier, I didn't believe the government. I didn't believe anyone on YouTube. I just wanted to find out the truth for myself, and I took you on that journey. And that's why I went to UVU. That's why I was putting down the nonsense as they came up with the palm guns, camera guns, tunnels underneath, like all of that stuff, just independently addressing that. And then after I got back from UVU and really sat down and like, all right, so this is the information that we have. Where am I on this? And to me, it was very clear that there was nothing within the charging documents in the case that the official narrative laid out that didn't make sense or was even questionable. After just an independent assessment, not believing the government, definitely not believing social media, that's where I was. And I shared that with you. And I was fine pretty much letting that go until 2 things happened. I was going to break away from the Charlie Kirk thing after I got back from UVU because I didn't feel like there was anything else to cover until 2 things happened. Number 1 was the Mitch Snow debacle. At that point, I was like, oh, no. Like, this is such horse shit that I'm going to get involved. And then even after that, I was planning on breaking away from this entire thing until the trial came out and going to spending time doing my business and doing our normal firearms 2A content, amongst other things. But then Candace came after me, and I sat here and watched her lie and make things up, and then her surrogates go out and create false narratives about me. And I saw from the inside out, I knew for a fact that they were intentionally lying with no regard for the truth whatsoever. And a couple of things happened at that point. Number 1, I took it a little personally. Number 2, I also knew that they were lying. I knew that if they're willing to lie and say, and her on her show, say that I was paid by TPUSA, that I was directed by Andrew Colvett, and that then go on to say that Erika Kirk hired me for PR. Like, all of that is just BS. It's defamatory. It's slanderous. She knows what she's doing. And then I have literally millions of people convinced that nothing I say is truth because I'm paid by TPUSA. That was the trope that they were trying to push. So now I'm in it, and I'm not going to let up until the truth comes out. And that's where I'm at with this. And yes, I am considering taking her to court, and I will win a defamation lawsuit over that. There's no doubt about it. Same issues apply. When the Macrons are done with her, is she going to have any money left? Do I want to go through 3.5 years of nonsense? Look, and I am not under the thought or working under the auspices that there will ever be vindication for me. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Even if it comes out, I was 100% correct. I went through this similar thing with Butler by the way. People are going to slander. They're not going to believe. And when they come to find out 2 years from now, 3 years, whenever the trial is, and when there's people like me, people like Dana, and a lot of other truth speakers out there, when it comes out that we were right the entire time, we are not going to be vindicated. Those people will not even come back and say, you know what, Gary, I was wrong. I shouldn't have spread that misinformation about you or any of these other people, because they don't care about the truth. And they're going to be so butthurt that they were fooled by Candace that they're going to take it out on people like me, Dana, and many other people out there trying to spread the truth, Graham Allen and many others. So that's where we're at in all this. And we see the truth, and we are not in it. And I know Dana's not in it to make a name for herself. Like, we're talking about this stuff because truth matters. Truth is the only thing that matters. It matters to me more than any amount of money or any other thing on the planet. Like, it matters a lot. And I'm willing to stake my reputation, my business, our safety. Like, we've been doxxed, we've been threatened, we've had multiple times where we've had our lives threatened. My wife's concerned about all these things. Doesn't matter. Like, we're on a mission from God, and we're going to execute. And that is, we're going to continue to bring the truth. I don't care if there's 5 people in the chat or 10,000, 10 million, or 1. Doesn't matter. I'm going to still be here doing what I'm doing. So all of you Candy Cult members, keep talking shit. It's not going to change anything. All you're doing is wasting your time. As a matter of fact, you motivate me. When you come after me, it just hardens my resolve. So that's where I'm at. I apologize for the rant.
That's okay.
Dana,
I don't blame you.
anything else you got to say about all of
I
this?
I would tell people that won't drop the 4chan thing again. I will say it slower for those in the back if you need to play this back slowly. It was presented on Patreon before it was ever shared onto 4chan. It was behind a paywall. So am I a little salty that someone paid $5 to steal my research that I worked very hard on? Yeah, I'm a little bit salty, but I still continued doing what I was doing. I don't use 4chan. I was tipped off by somebody. They said, hey, I saw your research on there. And so just like you said, this isn't a popular thing to do. It's very frustrating when, again, I'm a minute fraction compared to your subscriber count. And I'm grateful for, you allowing me to be on and present some of my stuff, because I'm taking 6-7 hours of shows and I'm just giving a portion. But when you have things that happen like that, some days it makes you feel like, what is the point? Like, obviously no one cares, right? Like, they're willing to pay money, pay the $5 just to steal your stuff and, put it onto 4chan. And it's like, I do it because the truth matters. That's it. I do it because the truth matters to me, and because I'm a little bit of a psycho when it comes to, if I can't find something, but I feel like I could find it, I'm like a bloodhound. I've got to chase it down, and I've got to exhaust all leads. And that's what I did with her family, at least on her dad's side. And I've gotten there with her mom, but I've just kind of walked away from the mom for the time being. But I completely agree. There will be no day of recognition. Not that I'm looking for it, nor do I care. I think that Candace's fans are feral, rabid, and I really want nothing to do with them. And, the truth will come out in the end. Hopefully, that's really all that anyone can hope for. And I hope that whoever was the perpetrator of the crime, I certainly can't say who it is. I hope that justice is served, and that, the court serves its purpose as it was intended to do, and that, Charlie's kids get justice, because really, like, all this other stuff doesn't matter. His kids are what matters, and hopefully they get justice at the end of the day. So
yeah, I couldn't agree more. And look, it's not about the numbers. And people throw that up. Whoa, her podcast get millions of views. I don't care. I don't care, folks. If we're going to do this long term, and I think that's what we're going to do, we're going to continue to do more podcasts regularly and shows regularly, whether you want to call it a podcast or not, talking about current events, talking about politics. At the end of the day, what I want a subscribers, viewers, supporters that appreciate the truth. And that's what I'm always going to bring you. And if and when I'm wrong, I'm going to come back and correct the record. I know somebody's saying, somebody that I trust, their opinion is that she didn't say that her last name was Rose. Tomorrow I'll find that out. I'll find the clip, and I will, if I'm wrong, I'm going to come back and correct the record. It sounds like, based on records, I agree with that assessment. I probably misheard what I said. But the point here is, I'd rather have 5 people that appreciate the truth than the sensationalism, the salacious stupidity that's being put out that is worse than Jerry Springer. There's a reason that Jerry Springer and soap operas are some of the most, Jerry Springer was the #1 TV show in the 90s. It's not because it was real. People wanted truth. People want to be entertained. And that's what Candace is bringing. On top of that, she's playing into a lot of people's prejudices, worldviews, and she's exploiting. And again, you know what? I want 10 good followers. And if I have more than that, thank you. And we do have more than that. And I want to I tell everybody out there how much I appreciate your love, your support. I see people out there defending me. I don't expect that. I appreciate it. But I can tell you this, that if what's going on here is worth defending and worth fighting for, because Candace is tricky, and it's not just Candace. This is so much bigger, and it's not even about Candace anymore. This is so much bigger. There's a psychological operation that's taking place that is going to have major impacts come midterms. This is as serious as it gets. They are trying to steal our country. This is another steal the vote campaign. And the way that they're trying to execute it is trying to demoralize people, convince you that, Donald Trump was in the Epstein files and the world's ran by pedophiles. Never mind Islam. Forget about that. Forget about all of those pedophiles, which outnumber, you want to talk about the Epstein files don't compare to the Muslim culture. Doesn't even come close. But they'll support that. They'll defend that. But they want to demoralize you and not point out the huge improvements that Donald Trump has made in 1 year. I was just listening. You need to listen to this. If you get a chance, go listen to the latest Joe Rogan podcast with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And he talks about all the things that I wasn't even aware of, all the improvements they've made through his agency, the Department of Health, and what they've done getting rid of food dyes, and they're continuing to make. And I know we just he talks a lot about the recent development when it comes to the Roundup, and there's some weird things going on there, but he explains that. He goes into it. But the point is they've made some huge improvements in the way that food is managed here in this country. I've talked about this 100 times. One of the worst things ever put upon the American people that has killed millions of people and made people's lives miserable was the food pyramid. Thank God that was just changed. So we're changing the way that we view food. The point here is that the Trump administration has made huge progress in every category and every facet of American lives, and they want to convince you to throw it all away and give this country back to the Democrats. And I'm telling you, all of this is part of it. And unfortunately, it's much more effective than I would ever imagine it to be. And luckily, we have a great audience that is spreading the truth, that believes in the truth. And you want the bitter truth over the sweet lies. And I appreciate you all for tuning in. Dana, thank you so much for coming on and laying out I know we just scratched the surface, and we could probably do 2-3 hours just on that, but I want to get you back on. We'll go a little bit more in depth on that. And just appreciate you folks. Go follow her. All of her social media is down in the description. So go check out those links. Go give her a follow, support her and what she does.
Thank you for having me. It was a good talk, and I agree. At the end of the day, it's just about the truth, guys. That's what matters. That's what passed the test of time. And sometimes the truth isn't popular. And I won't get into politics. I'm pretty apolitical, but and I dig into some weird stuff. But when I dig hard, and I do have the Candace videos up for those that are interested. And yeah, I would be happy to come back on, because like I said, I took 7 hours, and I feel like I gave maybe 20 minutes, and we're already almost at 4 hours, so won't torture anybody with that.
No, it was great having you on. I love the way that you lay out information, and you're just doing a great job, and I'm glad we had you on, and we'll continue to promote you, and more people need to go see you. And I love having folks like you on that people aren't aware of, so we can make them aware of them and continue to push for the truth and have some honest brokers of information. Shady Lady Katie says, no reply is a gay boy liar and trying to steal Dana's work. STFU, scrub. It was great having Shady Lady Katie on as well. All right, folks, listen, thank you. Have a wonderful week. We're going to be back tomorrow. I believe I have a guest. I'm going to have to check my schedule. My brain is fried from having to listen to all that nonsense that we did for the first hour and a half, 2 hours. Thank you again. And until next time, and Dana, don't go anywhere. But until next time, stay armed, stay ready. We'll talk to you soon.